Shit.
What?
Damn it. It's all good. I was trying to hit that. God damn it. It's all good, though. Let's get into it.
Yeah, all right, man. We live on the vertical, man. And we're going to go ahead. We are live on Rumble and Twitch, man.
What's going on, everybody, man? We are live.
Hey, man, we about to get into this JD Vance, man. He meets the press again. Came back for round 2 while yet Kamala Harris hasn't even did in round 1. So let's get right into it.
Y'all already know the vibes, man. Make sure to like the video before we get started, man. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, man. S.E.T Media, let's go.
Aren't you proud to be a Democrat?
We're not going back.
When we fight,
With just 10 weeks until Election Day, Democrats rally behind their new nominee in a show of party unity after President Biden's exit from the race.
I promise to be a president for all Americans.
Vice President Kamala Harris makes history as just the second woman and first woman of color to top a major party presidential ticket. Did Democrats do enough to win over voters who had soured on Biden? I'll speak with Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. Plus, the GOP rebuttal.
Okay.
The government ought to be focused on getting food prices down, getting housing prices down. Issues, of course, where Kamala Harris has been a total disaster.
My exclusive interview with Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, the Republican vice presidential nominee. And exit stage right. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suspends his campaign and endorses Donald Trump. What does his departure mean for the race? Joining me for insight and analysis are Amna Nawaz, co-anchor of PBS NewsHour, Democratic pollster Cornell Belcher, Amy Walter, editor-in-chief of the Cook Political Report, and Mark Short, former chief of staff to Vice President Mike Pence. Welcome to Sunday. It's Meet the Press.
All right, let's get right into it.
From NBC News in Washington, the longest-running show in television history. This is Meet the Press.
Sound like some
with Kristen
superhero
Welker.
shit. Like I'm about to do in the Avengers room.
Good Sunday morning. The 2024 campaign is now in its final sprint to
Appreciate
Election
everybody
Day,
tuning in. Make
with
sure to like
just
the video.
72 days to go. And this week, Vice President Kamala Harris made history, becoming the first woman of color to accept a major party's presidential
you see how they changed it
nomination.
from black to woman of color?
On behalf
I
of
told
Americans
you.
That's
like the
hilarious.
people I grew up with,
Okay. She's not
People
black.
who work
But
hard,
She got melanin, though.
chase their dreams, and look out for one another.
Y'all said she was black.
On behalf of
Y'all piss on my face and
everyone
tell me it's water.
whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be president.
On Wednesday, Harris will return to the campaign trail with new momentum, kicking off a battleground state bus tour with running mate Tim Walz.
We already got
in
several of
Georgia.
y'all in here, man.
This
Make sure to
is
like the
still
video,
an
double tap the
incredibly
screen.
tight race, and Harris has the
buttons
burden
in
of
the
being
top
a
right-hand
sitting
corner.
vice president who will be held responsible for the events happening on the administration's watch. In Chicago, top Democrats laid out the election's high stakes.
the torch has been passed. Now it is up to all of us to fight for the America we believe in. And make no mistake, it will be a fight.
In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences
You're all business?
of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious.
I want to know who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs.
Democrats tried to reach out to Republicans and independents, bringing a number of them on stage.
I know there are people of various political views watching tonight, and I want you to know I promise to be a president for all Americans.
And no matter who you are, Kamala Harris is going to stand up
Indian
and fight
Jamaican.
for your freedom to live the life that you want to lead.
How can a party claim to be patriotic if it idolizes a man who tried to overthrow a free and fair election?
We're all Americans, and together,
Fake.
let's all choose
Fake Oprah.
Kamala Harris.
Wow.
Harris and former President Trump are already preparing for their first face-off in September. On Friday, former President Trump accepted the endorsement of independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who suspended his campaign. On Saturday, I sat down with Mr. Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, in Cincinnati.
All right, man. Shout out J.D., fellow Ohio.
Senator J.D. Vance, welcome back to Meet the
OH
Press.
in the chat.
Thank you for having us here in Cincinnati. Let's start off with the Democratic National Convention. Some of what we heard this past week. Vice President Kamala Harris, in making her case, said that the tariff plans that Donald Trump is proposing will hurt the middle class. Here's what she said specifically.
He intends to enact what, in effect,
Make
is
sure to
a
like the
national
video.
sales tax. Call it
We
a
already got a
Trump
lot of y'all
tax
in here, man.
that would raise prices
Make sure to keep the conversation
on
going in the
middle-class
chat.
families by almost
Appreciate the love.
$4,000 a year.
Now, the estimates vary, but how do you respond to that charge that Trump's tariffs would hurt the middle class?
Yeah, so if you step back a little bit, Kristen, there's this whole thing that Kamala Harris did at the convention where she made a bunch of claims about what would happen and not enough actually reflection on what already happened, right? Because Donald Trump was already president. He used tariffs to bring manufacturing jobs back to our country, and I think he'll do it again. And he did it while keeping prices extremely low. Because if you go back to the Trump presidency, we had 12,000 factories that were built during Donald Trump's presidency. Inflation never really ticked above 2% his entire administration. In fact, was sort of, around 1.5% most of the time that he was president. So when Kamala Harris says, if we do the thing that Trump already did, it's going to be way worse than it was last time, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense.
Well, let's talk about Trump's record during his first term. He did impose rounds of tariffs, and it cost Americans nearly $80 billion in new taxes. Do you acknowledge that imposing more tariffs will ultimately cost consumers?
Well, what it really does is it penalizes importers from bringing goods outside the country into the country. And I think that's just a necessary thing. We know that China and a number of other countries are using effectively slave labor to undercut the wages of American workers. True. Donald Trump thinks that has to stop. And again, what Kamala Harris is saying, Kristen, is that if you do this, you're somehow going to cause skyrocketing inflation. In reality, Donald Trump already did it. He brought a lot of jobs back, and it didn't cause inflation.
But it caused consumers to pay more. They paid more in taxes, $80 billion worth. Do you acknowledge that consumers ultimately will pay more if there are more tariffs imposed?
So economists...
Do you just acknowledge that?
No, I don't, Kristen, because I think economists really disagree about the effects of tariffs because there can be a dynamic effect, right? So what some economists will say is what you just said, that it will actually raise costs for consumers. But what other people say, and I think the record supports what this other view, is that it causes this dynamic effect where more jobs come into the country. Anything that you lose on the tariff from the perspective of the consumer, you gain in higher wages. So you're ultimately much better off. You have more take-home pay, you have better jobs, and also we have more reliance. Because one of the things we learned during COVID, and I don't, by the way, blame Democrats for this, but one of the things we learned during COVID, Kristen, is that if our supply chains are really brittle, if we depend on the Chinese to make too much of our stuff, then prices can skyrocket at a time of crisis. The economists who say that tariffs are bad, they don't take that into account. And we've all learned it the hard way.
And it is economists across the board, really. I mean, the Wall Street Journal says economic data show that Donald Trump's trade war with China did not achieve its objectives of reversing the declines in U.S. manufacturing or reshoring factory jobs. I hear what you're saying. It's a complicated picture, but just on that bottom line point, you can't guarantee that Americans won't wind up paying a penny more.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We got a lot of
I
people in the
think
chat
what
right
you
now.
can guarantee is that if you don't bring more manufacturing jobs back into this country, you don't make our supply chains more stable, you're going to cause higher prices over the long term. I think that is what is absolutely true.
But you acknowledge they could wind up paying more?
What I acknowledge, Kristen, is that unless we bring more manufacturing jobs back to this country, we are going to end up paying more in the long term. Remember, the whole promise, now, again, this was a bipartisan thing. My own party was as wrong about it as Democrats were, and Donald Trump was right about it. What they said is that if you shipped all of our manufacturing to East Asia and to Mexico, Americans would pay lower prices. Well, here we are now, and Americans are paying higher prices. And just one more thing on this, Kristen, it's really important to go at what Kamala Harris actually said in her
jokes y'all want read aloud.
She says that she wants to stand up to China on behalf of American workers. If you're not willing to impose tariffs, on companies that are manufacturing in China using slave labor in China, you're not standing up to the Chinese, and Americans are really going to suffer.
And on pricing and prices right now, inflation obviously at its lowest level since 2021. But let's move on. Robert F. Kennedy, the big news yesterday.
Very big news.
He suspended his campaign, announced he's endorsing Donald Trump. He is also known as someone who has blamed vaccines for autism, antidepressants for school shootings, and recently said, quote, he won't take sides on what happened on 9/11. Do you have any hesitation about accepting his endorsement?
No, Chris, and I don't, because we're going to disagree on issues, right? There are things that Robert Kennedy has said that I disagree with. I'm sure there are things that he's said, or that I've said, excuse me, that he's going to disagree with. But I think what his endorsement represents is that Donald J. Trump's Republican Party is a big tent party. I was raised by two grandparents who are sort of classic blue dog Democrats. They believed in having a border. They believed that, you shouldn't have censorship in the United States of America. They believed in common sense economic policies. They may have disagreed with Donald Trump about tax policy, but they believed in some fundamental American values. And I think what RFK's endorsement really shows is that the Kennedy Democrats are actually more at home in the Republican Party of Donald Trump. And unfortunately, Kamala Harris's party, higher prices, doing nothing to fight back against the Chinese, to say nothing of a wide open border. That is not JFK's Democratic Party. It's not RFK's Democratic Party. We're thrilled to have the Kennedy Democrats where they belong.
Well, and some in the Kennedy family have stepped forward to say that they sharply disagree with this endorsement. But let's just go back very quickly. He says he isn't taking sides on 9/11. Do you agree?
And I think that is important because, man, the idea of the American dream, I would say, has been changed and altered over the last 100 years. But regardless of what side you on, Kamala, Walls, Vance, Trump, we got over 100 of y'all in here, man. Pause for the cause. Make sure to like the video, man. Double tap the screen. Hit your phone twice. Whatever device you're watching on. 3 dots in the upper hand corner as well. We appreciate the support, man. S.E.T Media.
Appreciate y'all.
Well, of course I don't agree with that, Chris. And now, to be clear, I don't know what RFK actually said there. Maybe there was additional context. Of course, you actually have to see what people say before you agree or disagree with it. I certainly have taken sides in 9/11. I'm the pro-America side. I don't think that we should have been attacked, and I certainly think hitting back against the terrorists was justified. I don't know what RFK said there, but what I do know is that RFK said a lot of very interesting and important things, that the Democratic Party has become too pro-censorship, that the Democratic Party, especially in the wake of COVID, became really anti-freedom and anti-child. I mean, you had Democrats saying that we should be masking toddlers in their schools, even though we knew it caused developmental disabilities.
Tampons
I
and
agree with RFK that was crazy.
Well, to be fair, there was a lot of information that scientists were grappling with as it came in, and masks were perceived to stop the spread of the disease. Let's move on.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
But the one thing before we move on that I would say on that is there were important leaders. Donald Trump was among them. RFK was among them, who were saying some of this stuff is crazy. And if we had listened to them, I think our kids would have been much better off in the wake of the pandemic.
I mean, scientists did show that masks help to stop the spread of the disease. Let's talk about another big issue.
Go ahead and super chat in $1 or more if y'all want y'all comments, questions.
And I think the way that RFK struck that balance was much harder, unfortunately, than the way that Kamala Harris did.
Let's talk about another big issue that was talked about at the Democratic National Convention. It's being talked about on the campaign trail. Abortion. Sure. Democrats made the case this week and beyond this week that Donald Trump, if elected, will impose a federal ban on abortion if he wins. Now, Donald Trump says he won't. But can you commit, Senator, sitting right here with me today, that if you and Donald Trump are elected, that you will not impose a federal ban on abortion?
I can absolutely commit that.
Bro, I'm gonna be real with you. Who is really on a federal ban for abortion?
Nobody has said that. I don't think anybody but the most far right politicians are probably saying that.
Bro, and even the far right politicians, those are like, I ain't gonna lie, the biggest Bible thumpers,
Right. So they're going off of religious belief.
You feel me? It's like all logic out. They're going off religion. But if you act a logical person, who are most of us, is going to tell you, if it's only these 3 cases, if it's in the instant of rape, incest, or
danger to the mother's health,
then okay, let's go. It's cool. But if anything else, you just want to go be irresponsible, just to go sleep around with more men, just to go kill more kids, it's like, I don't know, I'm not rocking with that.
And you trying to use abortion as like a form of contraceptive, like, bro, that's the most irresponsible thing. Like, I just can't endorse that. And like I always say a little known fact or under highlighted fact, like most of these people that are going in for these, they're gonna have another one, because they're irresponsible people.
They just want to go out and party with no consequences.
and Donald Trump has been as clear about that as possible.
Go ahead and
I
get
think
you
it's
some
important to
teardrops.
step back and say, what has Donald Trump actually said on the abortion question, and how is it different from what Kamala Harris and the Democrats have said? Donald Trump wants to end this culture war over this particular topic. If California wants to have a different abortion policy from Ohio, then Ohio has to respect California, and California has to respect Ohio. Donald Trump's view is that we want the individual states and their individual cultures and their unique political sensibilities to make these decisions, because we don't want to have a nonstop federal conflict over.
This is where I see the Republican side be more accepting than the Democratic side. We're pretty much saying, bro, leave it to the states. If you don't like how your state got it run, then go somewhere else.
But I guess there's states like Texas that is trying to stop people from traveling to other states to get abortions.
All right, we got a chat in from Russian Cardler. Let's go call him Russian. I ain't down with killing babies in third trimester, man. Like, bro.
Hold on, let me get my man his proper due, Don DeMarco. We appreciate the super chat. We appreciate the love, man.
And we ain't down with the third trimester takeouts either. 6 weeks? A good month. A good month. Okay.
Don DeMarco, first super chat of the show. We appreciate you, my boy.
But as soon as that mug is a coffee bean, which it takes 7 weeks to do, you're done. You got to have it. Take ownership.
Over this issue, the federal government ought to be focused on getting food prices down, getting housing prices down. Issues, of course, where Kamala Harris has been a total disaster. So I think Donald Trump is right. We want the federal government to focus on these big economic and immigration questions. Let the states figure out their own abortion policy.
Let me just follow up with you a little bit on that point, because I've been talking to Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham just last week, who've made it very clear that if Donald Trump is elected, if you are elected, they will continue to press this point. Senator Graham said to me, I'm going to keep saying that there should be a federal ban. If such a piece of legislation landed on Donald Trump's desk, would he veto it?
Got over 200 of y'all in here, man. Make sure to like the video, double tap the screen, or hit the three buttons on the upper right-hand corner, man. Show some support. Let's continue to get more people in here. We're having a fire conversation in the chat. Let's keep it going.
I don't think he's ever said explicitly he would. He said that to you?
Lindsey Graham, Kristen, I would be surprised. I mean, again, I need to see the context on what Lindsey Graham said, because Lindsey Graham himself has not advocated a federal abortion ban. Lindsey Graham has advocated a federal minimum standard. Now, to be clear, that is not Donald Trump's view. Donald Trump disagrees with Lindsey Graham on this, but no Republican, at least no Republican with any reasonable power, is saying that we should have a complete national abortion ban. I haven't heard that from any of my colleagues. And to be clear, Donald Trump, I think, has staked his position and made it very explicit. He wants this to be a state decision.
Bro, them blue states are going to take out their kids, let them do it.
All right, let's talk about women voters more broadly. The Census Bureau estimates there are 22 million women between the ages of 20 and 40 who, for whatever reason, do not have children. What do you say to those women who hear some of your comments, including childless cat lady comments, which you've been asked about, but who feel as though you won't represent them?
Bro, as a woman, if you ain't put no kids into
I want to be the vice president for the whole country,
man.
and
I don't know. You ain't did much for America.
And yes, I made a sarcastic comment years ago.
Come on now. He represents all Americans, regardless of if you got 1 kid, 0 kids, or 10 kids. I think J.D. Vance just has a strong stance on family, which I support, because in America, I ain't gonna lie, we got a declining birth rate. And every time I speak about these issues, I always reflect about the black community. Like, specifically, we have a declining birth rate. We're taking out more than we putting in.
Yeah.
So I can support J.D. Vance's view on being pro-family, not pro-kids and just birthing more kids, but starting and creating more families.
Yeah, because I ain't gonna lie, we need more family to create better kids. And if we don't got no kids, then we got to rely on the old workforce. And that just leads to a failing economy.
And these crazy cat ladies, these Karens almost that he's referring to, they ain't got no skin in the game.
Bro, they want us to be out here like Japan and China, bro. No, we ain't going out like that, man. Have more babies.
I think that a lot of Democrats have willfully misinterpreted. But what I've simply said is that I think that it's really a profound change that's happened in our country, where we become anti-family, and I would like to change that. And I think if you talk to young women, whether they have children or don't want to have children, what you consistently hear is that a lot of young women feel like they don't have options. I saw this with my own wife, who's a working mother, who's a very, very accomplished litigator. She has 3 beautiful kids, and always felt like she was having to balance being a good mom with being the kind of litigator that she wanted to be. I just want women to have more choices. I've seen that very personally in my own family, and I think it's something that is broken about our country.
Let me zoom out.
The workforce is designed to pull a woman away from her family.
Comment, sure. And yet, Some women, and you got the feedback in real time, felt like it was a gut punch to them personally. Do you regret making that comment?
Hit dog
Look, I regret certainly that a lot of people took it the wrong way, and I certainly regret that the DNC and Kamala Harris lied about it.
But do you regret what you said, Senator?
Look, Kristen, I'm going to say things from time to time that people disagree with. I'm a real person. I'm going to make jokes. I'm going to say things sarcastically, and I think that what's important is that we focus on the policy. There are certainly going to be things that I say. If I'm elected vice president, people are going to say, well, I wish he had said that differently. I think it's most important to actually be
for those that really
person
took
I
him
actually
serious,
am,
like he hates
and to
cat
say-
owners, or he hates single parents, or he hates people who don't have kids. Like, come on now. He was being funny. He was being facetious almost. Like, but seriously though, at the same time, let's have some more families. Goddamn it.
Man, we got 200 y'all in here. Make sure to like the video. Appreciate the support.
And super chat in if y'all got any comments or concerns or any.
Even if you can't super chat, just like the video.
It's free as hell.
And comment.
Hey, those sarcastic comments were made in the service of a real substantive point. This country has become too anti-family. It's too expensive to afford a house. It's too expensive to afford groceries. Donald Trump and I want to change that. And unless we get better leadership, we're not going to.
But again, just very quickly, given that people have told you directly, have spoken out, have said that they were offended, they were hurt by those comments, do you wish you never made those childless cat lady comments?
I think that it's much more important for me to just be a normal human being who sometimes says things that people disagree with. I have a lot of regrets, Kristen, but making a joke 3 years ago is not at the top 10 of the list.
All right, another big topic in this race is immigration. There has been a lot of discussion about Donald Trump's.
Bro, I'd have honed down on that point so hard. I've been like, yeah, bro, she ain't committed.
10 toes.
Bro, 10 toes. I mean, yeah, she has no kids. She ain't put towards America's future. She started no businesses. She ain't put towards America's business future. Like, this lady is a useless cat lady at the end of the day. We're trying to vote her into office. That is a joke I'd have stood on. I ain't gonna lie.
Plans for mass deportation.
Yeah.
According to one estimate, more than 11 million U.S. citizens live in households with mixed immigration status, including more than 5 million children. If you and former President Trump were elected, would you separate families as a part of your mass deportation effort?
Well, we have to start with the foundational issue here, which is we have 25
Bro,
million
you trying to make
illegal
me sound
aliens in
inhumane.
this
Ain't nobody
country
with
right now because
established
Kamala Harris
citizenship
has
getting
refused to
deported.
Very
First
quickly,
of all,
DHS says it's much lower. It's closer to 8 million. I don't know. Where do you get the 25 million from?
Well, I think the 25 million are the people that should have been deported that maybe weren't deported, plus you had another 12 to 15 million that have come in since Kamala Harris. Whatever
DHS
the number is.
that number for the record. They say it's
Fair.
closer to 8 to 10 million.
But I think there are reasons to think that DHS is
they're probably talking about
underestimating
8 to
whatever
10
the real
million
number is.
recently.
It's way
JD
too
Vance
high,
is
right? It's
referring to
millions upon
25
millions of
million
illegal
probably over
immigrants that have come
span
in
of
just
3 or
since
4
Kamala
years.
Harris
Yeah.
became the border czar a few years
we should have
ago.
kicked them out 2 years ago. They're still here, plus the new.
Well, the root causes of migration, I would say,
correcting
Chris,
this
is
man?
that Kamala Harris refused to do her job as border czar. And let's just start there. I want to answer your
Guys,
question, but
hey, if you got any
it's important to
controversial
sequence
comments,
this
just
the
super
right
chat
way.
them in, $1
So if
and
you
up.
want to
We'll
get
go ahead
control
and
of
read
the
it out for you.
illegal
$1,
immigration
man. Come on,
problem,
come ahead and
you
engage
have
with
to
us.
stop the bleeding. You have
Appreciate
to
the
stop
support
so
either
many
way,
people
man. Like
from
the
coming
video
here
as well.
illegally in the first place, and that means undoing everything that Kamala Harris did practically on day one of the administration. You have to
Got over
reimpose
300 of y'all in here,
deportations.
man.
You have to
Appreciate the
stop
support.
catch and release.
Double tap the
Stop
screen,
granting
man.
asylum to every single person who comes in here and says that they need asylum, and stop granting mass parole. These policies are why we have the immigration crisis that we have. So I think focus on fixing the problem. Before we even fix the problem, we've got to stop the problem from getting worse.
And as you know, President Biden passed a series of executive actions, and illegal border crossings are now at their lowest levels in about 5 years, so much so that Greg Abbott is no longer busing people to other cities. But let me ask you this fundamental question,
Please.
fundamental question. Will families be separated under your mass deportation?
And again, because you made a point here, I do want to answer this question about families and about deportations, but you made this point that border crossings are lower. Border crossings at the southern border are lower because the Harris administration is sending more immigrants through the ports of entry. So instead of coming through the southern border, they're now being flown at taxpayer expense to the ports of entry all over our country. The number of illegal crossings, Chris, and this is a really important point, they're not any lower.
Over here
They're
to the
just
sanctuary cities.
Bro, they're getting flights over here. They're getting hooked up with debit card, food stamps,
high-rise apartments.
Bro, everything they need. But some reason we can't help our own citizens. It
Vets,
really is a smack in the face.
Homeless.
Bro, it's a smack in the face to Americans. Like, bro, food's going up. So since you can give $4,000 to every immigrant, you tell me you can't give every American a $400
little stipend?
Yeah, on food.
To offset these rising costs.
Yeah, like, our bad on the rising costs. So here's everybody gets the EBT card, $400 for the family.
Everybody, we feel it
a month. You feel me? That should be good.
Because I don't know about y'all, but man, I like my steak, and my steak getting expensive.
Man, real expensive.
Shuffling how the people are coming into the country in the first place, and this is very important.
They're able to process it more efficiently, but Greg Abbott's not setting them to other
Kristen,
states.
I don't want a border czar who makes it more efficient for illegal immigrants to come into this country. That's why we have the problem that we have.
Senator, to this question, because so many people want to know the answer to this. Will families be separated under your mass deportation policy?
I think that families are currently being separated, and you're certainly going to have to deport some people in this country. Now, I think you start you start with the most violent criminals in our country. Those people need to be deported. That's where you focus federal resources. I think you, of course, have a number of children who are currently living with drug cartel members, not actually their families. We need, of course, find their families and get them back to their families. But it's very interesting here, because what Kamala Harris says is that Donald Trump wants to separate families. Kamala Harris's policies have led to thousands upon thousands of migrant children living with sex traffickers and drug cartels. That is the consequence of her policies.
But there's not a policy to separate families. There's not a policy to separate families.
You've got almost 400 y'all in here, man.
Policies will lead to family separation. You don't get to claim, Kristen, this is important. Kamala Harris cannot claim that she doesn't know that her policies are leading to family separation. They are, and everybody knows it, and she has to take responsibility for that. That's what real leadership is.
There are some families who have been separated, as you say, some because their parents are criminals. But of course, under the Trump administration, there was a zero tolerance policy, which is an actual policy. But let's move on.
No, please,
because we're running out of time.
Because this is so important.
We are running out of time.
There was a zero. I'll give you more time. There was a zero tolerance policy during the Trump administration, and that led to less family separation than under Kamala Harris's border policies. That's what's so striking about this. Actually enforcing our border is
the danger is when you make
these
borders so open and free, and when you have these when you have these influx of people come in, and then you present the problem of having to separate families.
All right, and shout out to the Thrift Mama, first time watching. Hey, we appreciate you, Mama, man. We appreciate you.
American citizens.
But I don't hear you denying that families will be separated. Let's move on to something that Donald Trump said in North Carolina and yet again Friday night.
Our primary focus is not to get out the vote. It's to make sure they don't cheat. Because we have all the votes you need. You can see it.
Why is Donald Trump casting doubt on the election before it's even happened?
I don't think that's what Donald Trump is doing.
Well, that's what he's doing. That's what he says here. We need to make sure they don't cheat.
I think that what he's saying is that we want to pursue a set of policies in the Republican Party that make it easier for every legal ballot.
Like, is it wrong to assume that y'all cheating? Y'all letting in these immigrants? Y'all giving them all this stuff? Y'all damn near trying to give them voting status because y'all already know that the American people is disgruntled with y'all? Like, is that really such a far-fetched conspiracy? Like, is it?
To be cast
I don't think so.
Counted,
honestly, I think it has some traction.
For illegally cast ballots to be counted. Now we can disagree about how many.
Almost 500 of y'all in here, man. Pause for the cause real quick, man. Let's get the likes up, man. We appreciate the support, but a like is free, man. Double tap the screen. Go ahead and hit the three dots in the upper right hand corner as well, man. And road to 4K. Hit the subscribe button, man. Search our catalog. You're bound to find something you love in there, man. We're live every day. It's S.E.T Media, man. Y'all know what's up.
Super chat question and comments be read out loud. Yes, and we'll even read out the jokes, okay?
If you want to comment about S.E.T's robe and S.E.T's glasses or Key's big shiny forehead, it don't matter, man. Let us know.
A few thousand, maybe more. But just in the last week, okay? So just in the last week, once in Arizona and once in Pennsylvania, there were major court wins that make our ballot process more secure and more effective. I think that's what Donald Trump is talking about, is we have to pursue, sometimes through litigation, sometimes through better policy at the state or national level, a set of rules that make sure every ballot is legally counted.
Well, it's very different from your message, which is you said, and I'll quote you back to yourself, we have to work as hard as possible to persuade Americans to vote for us. Are you on the same page as Donald Trump? Because, again, he seems to be casting doubt on the results of the election before it's even happened.
Of course we're on the same page, Kristen. We talk all the time, and I guarantee you, if you sat here and said, Mr. President, Donald Trump, do you believe that we need to do, that your campaign needs to persuade voters as much as possible? Of course he's going to say yes. That's not inconsistent with thinking that we need to pursue a set of approaches that make sure legal ballots get counted, illegal ballots don't get counted.
Do you have faith the 2024 election will be free and fair?
I do, Kristen. I do think it's going to be free and fair, and we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that happens. We're going to pursue every pathway to make sure, again, legal ballots get counted. But I feel very good about where we are. I think we're going to win this race, and I think we're going to win it in a very good election.
All right.
Now, I did do a live update on
thank
the
you
polls
so much
earlier
for your time
on
this afternoon.
stream. Make sure to go
Really
check that one out. But just for those who didn't see
and a note on Senator Vance.
Kamala's leading in a lot of states. I'll be honest. Surprisingly enough, Kamala is leading in a lot of states, and this is from a lot of different reporting polls.
But who is these polls? Who are y'all? Why haven't y'all put it to my door? Where's the link? Where's the website to where I can go put in my personal vote? Who are these people voting for me?
Who are these niggas?
Man, who are y'all?
All right. Should we,
Vance's claim about family separation. The numbers show the Trump administration separated more than 5,500 families. Most of them under that.
So that was Vance's interview, actually fresh off the presses from earlier today. We're going to transition into his interview with Bill Maher right here, or Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly, man.
And it was a fire conversation. So let's hop right into it.
So I appreciate you taking the time out there in Nebraska. We're talking to you early in the morning, but you look good. All right, I'm a mess, but you look good, Senator.
You look amazing.
Thank you for taking the time. This is a policy interview. But before I get to
you look amazing.
6 months ago, your life was
I like your makeup.
Fairly organized as far as the Senator of the United States is concerned. Now, it's 180 degrees different. Since you got the nod for VP, give me two things that have surprised you about the whole process.
Well,
the
first thing that I have to point to, Bill, is having a Secret Service detail is just a wildly different thing. I think for my kids in particular, Bill, we have a 7-year-old boy, a 4-year-old boy, and a 2-year-old girl. They can't just like walk out the front door and go to their friends' houses anymore. It's just a slightly different world, right? So I think that has been the biggest adjustment for the family.
Yeah.
I think the really big positive surprise is just you see the country in a totally different light as a VP nominee. And what I mean is, I've run for Senate before, did it 2 years ago. You drive around the state of Ohio, which is, of course, my favorite state, in the back of a used Subaru. Now I'm flying around.
Oh, no, the Subaru,
he's out, bro.
He Ohio as hell.
That was my first car, a Subaru, bro.
He Ohio.
He Ohio.
That was a nod to Ohioans right there.
Yeah.
That was
drive around Ohio, bro. I'd have been all through this.
And that was a little nod to Ohioans right there.
Man, you ain't a real Ohioan unless you just slide over to every city.
In a plane going to every corner of the country. And you just, whenever we're on the ground, I try to drop into some place that's local, a chocolate shop, an ice cream shop, a deli, just to sort of talk to people and see what it's like on the ground. And it's just a totally different way of looking at our country. It makes you realize, Bill, we have the most beautiful country in the world. And I always try to remind my fellow conservatives, my fellow Republicans, there is a lot for us to be grateful for and a lot for us to be hopeful about. The problem with this country, it's not our workers, it's not our natural resources, our incredible beauty. The problem is leadership, and that's why we're doing what we do.
We got over 400 of y'all in here, man. Appreciate the support, but make sure to like the video.
One of the big issues,
as
everybody knows,
hit the
is
three
the
buttons
open
in
border,
the
which is
top right-hand corner.
An amazing
amount
of pain for the United States of America. And we're talking about drugs.
Yes, sir.
We're
Shout out
talking about fiscal issues, cities going bankrupt, chaos, crime, on and on and on.
Shout out.
So Donald Trump, and I think you subscribe to this from my research, wants to deport a massive amount of people, millions of people. So my analysis says that's almost impossible. How could a Trump administration
sending all jokes and comments and all that through Super Chat?
Well, Bill, before we get to that, I think it is important to set this up and say you have to stop the bleeding, first of all, right? That's the most important thing, and the thing where I think most Americans actually have near uniform agreement on is we've got 25 million illegal aliens in this country right now. Let's not add to it, right? Let's actually re-implement deportations, re-implement President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, stop this process of catch and release, where for your viewers who don't fully appreciate this, what this really means is that you come into the country, you're asked by your government to come back maybe 10 years down the road, maybe 5 years down the road.
Shout out
but
Dayton,
it's effectively a blanket amnesty policy for anybody who says that they're persecuted, even if they're just a traditional economic migrant. That is one of the biggest reasons why we have this wide open border. So stop all that stuff, right? That's first. So you're right. Okay, so once you stop all that stuff, now you've got 20 million, 25 million people. You have to figure out what to do with them. And I guess the way that I think about it, Bill, is, it's kind of like being asked, well, you have a sandwich and it's 10 times the size of your mouth. How do you actually eat the whole thing? And you take it one bite at a time, right? And I think you start with the million most violent, most criminal, illegal alien elements. There's probably, of the 20 million, there's probably 1 million who have committed some violent crime. That's an estimate, but I think it's pretty close to the truth. You deport them first and you focus on them first. And then I think you go down the list from there.
Are you going to have a special federal task force set up to track down violent migrants?
Well, I think you start with the people, again, who have committed crimes, right? So they're going to be in some local database. Obviously, not every violent criminal is easy to track down, but a lot of them are because they're in the eyes of some local law enforcement.
What if they're in prison, though? Would you take them out and send them out, or they serve their full sentence and then you kick them out? What do you do?
I think it depends, but my attitude...
I'll let them serve their full sentence. Let's get that good old slave labor out of them that we get out of these people in the prison system, and then go ahead, send them out. Send them back to their country. Hey, man, at least we got to get a use for them. They done ran amok up in our country. At least it will work for our country for free, and then we send you back. I think that's pretty fair. I think it's fair.
Damn.
It would be send it back to their home country, let their home country.
Yeah, why not? You can run up a quick American bag.
One of the biggest problems with our local budgets, Bill, and the problems
that was the whole work visa concept.
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole work visa concept?
Yeah, you run up a bag, you get your thing, but yeah, you got to take that thing.
You got a certain amount of time, and you got to get home.
Hey, you made 6 figures here? Yeah, cool. Take it back to your country.
Man.
Shoot, don't go try to get married here now. No. Go take it home and build your country.
Is, it costs a lot of money to jail illegal aliens. Sure. It costs a lot of money to school their children. And it costs, of course, a lot of money to provide medical care. So I think get them back to their country of origin, especially if we're talking about that violent, hardened criminal element. And then I think, look, you are right, Bill, that there are going to be some people where it's very hard to find them. But I think that there are a lot of people where it will be easy to find. And you have to be willing to deport these people if you're going to have a real border policy.
Okay.
I mean, let me just give you...
You're going to have to go through... You're going to have to go through the federal court system to do it, because the ACLU is going to file lawsuit after lawsuit.
So the argument is how deep
they're going to do it? But that's okay. I mean, I want to just get your vision about what to do. So then you have, I put the number at about 15.
I would say this. I'm pretty sure it's real easy to understand that, yeah, we need to round up all the immigrants that got over here within the past, I'd say 4 to 6 years, that it's undocumented. Yeah, just round them up and take them back home. And even if they had kids, savagely enough, yes, we're going to have to harden our hearts, send them out the door with their parents, of course.
Undocumented migrants.
That's what he's talking about. That would be lawsuit upon lawsuit for the ACLU, because aren't you just an American citizen? Even if you got over here as an undocumented,
you were born on American soil.
Yeah,
I ain't gonna
isn't that
lie.
What it is? Bro, I'm not saying I agree with it. But
I'm just saying, but the only stature to where we could pretty much let them in is if their parents disavows them and they just let them into our system. Like, you literally have to sit there and give your kid up to the American system and just going back to your country. If you really
a lot of
want
parents
that.
would take that.
Exactly. So we could be fair and do that and understand what that would come with. But that's the best we can do.
Isn't that just more of a burden on the taxpayer? Because somebody's gonna have, the state's gonna have to raise those kids.
Exactly. So what would be best? Just be compassionate. Think we're being compassionate and put in like a lot of pressure on the country, or just be a little bit savage and send everybody out, kid and all. Literally throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Oof.
Literally.
We might have to. I mean, it does sound savage, a little bit morbid, but it's the most thorough policy, really.
Yeah, it don't sound too good when I say it, but it just sounds like a.
Oh, we gotta fix the issue somehow, some way, man. Make sure to check out our video on the immigration analogy.
Yeah, with the gumballs and all that.
You and Donald Trump talked about
pretty good analogy.
A process for those people. Are you going to make them register? What are you going to do to find out what their circumstance is?
Well, I think one other just additional thought here, and it's responsive to that question too, Bill, is we can actually do a very good job of deporting illegal immigrants if we just make it harder for them to work in this country in the first place.
You'd have to get Congress to pass a law that punishes employers who hire illegal aliens. It's not going to be easy to do that, particularly if the Democrats control one house on Capitol Hill. All right, so
Bill, it's not going to be easy. I agree with you. It's not going to be easy to do, but I think it's important to do, Bill, because if you take a look, if you really want to have a battle with the Democrats over who respects and represents American workers, you've got one party that's trying to make it harder to hire illegal labor and undercut American wages. You've got another party that's fighting that effort. I think that's a fight.
Did you ever think about why the Democrats want the open border? Because they clearly do. The Democratic Party clearly wants an open border. They do not want any standards of who enters the country and who doesn't. Did you have you thought about why they want that?
I have, Bill, and I don't think you have to think that hard because the Democrats are very open about this. I mean, if you look at Chuck Schumer's floor speeches or go back a few years, what Joe Biden was saying on the floor of the United States Senate, they explicitly want to grant large numbers of illegal immigrants the right to vote. And they think that they're going to vote for Democrats, and they think that's going to permanently make Republicans a minority in their own country. I think this is a very real driver of what you're seeing at the southern border.
That they want to load up the demographics and change the state like California's changed in Arizona and New Mexico. All right, let's get on to sanctuary cities. So you have been very explicit here in saying...
like I said, man, go ahead and send in your super chat. We'll go ahead and we'll give you the response y'all want and everything. But we got a show to run here, man. Come on, we can't look at everyone. Y'all see how fast it's going? Please respect the show.
Over 400 people in here.
But we do appreciate the support. If you can't support the show, just make sure to like and keep watching. We
double tap that screen or hit the 3 buttons in the upper right hand corner.
You Kamala voter, don't matter.
Trump voter, cool. You was RFK, you was Vivek, you could have been Nikki Haley.
Man, look, man, we value all opinions here.
It's simple. This is a quote from Senator Vance. We're going to end sanctuary cities. So how are you going to do that?
Well, look, why do sanctuary cities exist, Bill? Because they get a lot of federal money in order to serve illegal aliens over American citizens. This is really about cutting off the money spigot here. You can't, of course, wave the magic wand and...
You and Donald Trump would say, we're not sending any federal money unless you cooperate with us.
You know what that leads me to believe?
I think exactly. That's exactly right.
And you guys are going to do that?
Some of these immigration cities are city officials that are getting a massive bag.
Donald Trump did not do that.
With the funding,
Bill, I think that we have to, and I think that to defend Donald Trump in his first term here, Bill, you have to remember, one, a lot of the Republican Party was fighting him on his immigration agenda. I think that'll be much different the second time around. And the second thing, Bill, is you mentioned the ACLU lawsuits. A lot of the litigation, a lot of the immigration enforcement was stalled in the first few years of the Trump administration. And he still got a lot done, to be clear, but he could have gotten more done if the courts hadn't been fighting him. A lot of those court cases have actually worked through the system in a way that's favorable to immigration enforcement. A very fundamental principle of immigration enforcement law is the president gets to do what he wants to do. He has broad discretion to enforce our immigration laws.
And I think Joe Biden demonstrated that.
That's exactly right.
Joe Biden wouldn't enforce the law. It's an impeachable offense, in my opinion, but because the Democrats control the Senate.
There was a report that...
All right, let's get on to...
there was literally a report that Joe Biden was actually telling the border, to actually threaten them, saying that, no, don't stop them. Just let them in. If you stop them, we're going to stop you. I literally remember, you can look that story up. The Texas border literally goes against Biden and says, yo, you're tripping. It's like...
Another interesting statement that you made. That I want, this is Senator Vance again, I want to expand the child tax credit. I want to stop those surprise medical bills. All right, now the expansion of the child tax credit, that's obvious. But you agree with the Democrats on that. That's not a bad thing. All right. But when you say I want to stop surprise medical bills, then you're going into the private medical sector and telling them, this is what Kamala Harris is spouting all the time. Well, we're gonna price control food. We're gonna price control.
Didn't Kamala Harris say she want to price control rent?
That's not gonna happen because they're private concerns. Do you have a way that you could stop surprise medical bills?
Well, so first of all, Bill, just on the child tax credit, to give Donald Trump some credit here, it was actually his legislation back in 2017 that first expanded the child tax credit for the first time in a very long time. And of course, Kamala Harris fought that legislation every step of the way, in fact, voted against it. So I don't think that we should give the Democrats credit here when they say that they're pro expanding the child tax credit. The one big opportunity in my lifetime where it happened, Donald Trump did it, Republicans supported it, and Democrats fought it every step of the way.
I need to hear him.
Stopping surprise medical bills. I don't think you can do that.
Well, here's the way that I've thought about this, Bill, and we've actually worked on legislation during my time in the Senate to work on this. Take for example, a situation that I've experienced just in my family, and I'm a very lucky guy. This is not the sort of thing that broke the bank, but it could be for a lot of middle-class families where you go to the hospital, your wife delivers a beautiful baby, you're excited about it, and then through the process of dealing with all of the shots and the vitamins and the things that are necessary for that new baby, you accidentally, and sometimes through no knowledge of your own, go to an out-of-network provider for a particular service, and you get home with your beautiful baby a few weeks later, and you get a shockingly high medical bill. I think that there are actually real solutions that exist to be able to solve that problem. The question is, when you have these surprise and totally unforeseen circumstances, who should bear
I need to stop playing, man, or these women going to start having their kids in the pool again. All right, now you better lower their medical bills.
The burden of that, the insurance companies or the American family.
But what would the law
think that it's
look
totally
like?
reasonable.
What would the federal law look like to stop that?
Well, it would basically say that if through no fault of your own, you engage in an out-of-network medical provider in order to provide benefits for your family, you don't get stuck with the bill. The insurance company and the hospital should bear the burden of making sure that all of the insurance stuff is worked out. Okay. Not a new mom who gave birth to a baby 3 hours before and is probably exhausted. Really, it's just a question of where do you put the burden? I think it's reasonable. But look, I believe
certainly y'all trying to say he doesn't care about women or he's not pro-women.
He has a wife. Like, come on now. It's like, man, if he's a player and he doesn't have a wife, he hates women. If he has a wife and she's a traditional woman, he hates women. But apparently, no matter what they say, as long as you're a Republican,
you hate women.
Ain't that crazy?
Reasonable, but writing the bill, I wouldn't want to write that bill. But
we're working on one right now in the United States to that effect.
And I will look at it, of course.
Please do.
Let's go on to another quote. Senator Vance, we are going to stand up to soft on crime prosecutors. So now the federal government is intruding on the state and local governments, and you know you can't
Make
do
sure
that.
to continue to like
so
the video,
here in New York,
man.
where I am,
all you gotta do is double tap the screen, man. Quick pause for the cause, man, because we gotta get the likes up, dog. Hit the 3 buttons in the top right-hand corner, man. Just like the video,
or double tap the screen. We appreciate that as well.
It goes a long way. Pushes us in the algorithm. We having a fire conversation in the chat. So let's get as much people as we can in here. Keep it going.
Yep, and like I said, man, if you want to go ahead and super chat any of your comments and questions, we'll be happy to oblige it. Or if you just want to joke around and send a funny joke.
$1 or more, man. Go ahead and engage with us.
And we have the worst Alvin Bragg.
Yep.
The worst. You can't touch him. Can you?
I disagree, Bill. Go ahead.
No. How are you going to get him? Because listen, if you got away, I'm right behind you. He's killing the city.
Look, I think there's a carrot and there's a stick you can use with some of these local prosecutors. And again, you have to talk about the purse strings. That's where you start with this, right? So, look, if you're a local prosecutor, police officer brings in the bad guy, and you let a person walk scot-free who committed a violent crime, then I think the federal government should be willing to say, look, we're not going to give you all of those law enforcement resources that exist in the federal budget. We're going to be a little bit more willing to use some.
The one place they should never be invoking that, where you just, a violent offender going to jail because they admitted some crazy crime and they just let them out. Guess what city they do that stuff in? It's one of the most talked about cities in rap.
New York? L.A.?
Really?
Chicago?
Yes, Chicago. Yes.
What, catch and release?
Yep, catch and release in Chicago.
Oh.
Bro, the one place you really shouldn't have that at. In Chicago, of all places.
Aren't they trying to remove, low bonds in some states to just let niggas out? I heard about that. They're trying to remove bond.
Yeah, man, I ain't gonna lie, though. It's like some of these guys are, low-key serial killers, so maybe they need to go ahead and just invoke some of these death penalties again, man. Just get them up out of here, man. Come on. Goodbye.
Discipline and how we disperse those.
That's just my opinion.
You're not going to use them to actually bring in the bad guys.
And
that's exactly right, Bill.
But
But one other point on this bill, because I think
criminals.
it's very important. When I talk to police officers and I say, what is your biggest problem? What are the ways in which these soft on crime prosecutors make your life harder? The thing the police tell me, it's fascinating, Bill, is they're easy on the bad guys, but they use the full force of their office to really go after the police officers who are, of course, prosecuting the bad guys. I think that we have to ensure that our local police officers have the immunity necessary that prosecutors have, that judges have. We got to give our police officers proper immunity so they can do their jobs. We protect them from these ridiculous lawsuits, and we actually make it easier for them to do their job.
Now, let's go to an issue that you and I disagree on, but maybe you have a new take on it, and that's Ukraine. So I'm a historian, and you know that, and I know what Putin's game is. It's obvious what he's done in Georgia, Belarus. He wants to restore the Soviet Union, and he's willing to kill hundreds of thousands of people to do it. There is only one force on earth that can stop this man. That's the United States. Okay. And we have NATO help. Okay. So I am a person who says you got to stop Putin in Ukraine, and that means you got to arm the Ukrainians, and you have to give them humanitarian aid. Am I wrong?
Well, here's where I disagree on some of where you're at, Bill. I don't think that we can arm Ukraine indefinitely, because I think that what it has ultimately done is, one, it's subsidized the Europeans and allowed them to not take responsibility. And it also, there's no real end in sight to our present Ukraine policies.
Didn't they lose or say that they had a large part of that funding that was unaccounted for? Like billions of dollars that they couldn't account for and couldn't tell us what they spent on or where it went.
But here's the
or
thing,
whose hands it got into.
But here's
this
the
shit's
thing.
corrupt.
What's the point of being like so
allegedly
anti-Putin if it's only gonna hurt America? Like, I just don't get it. And then like I said, okay, so what? We don't want Trump to have Russia, even though Putin to have Russia. We didn't want Putin to have Russia, even though Putin owns 51% of the pipeline that runs through Ukraine, I mean. Yes, Putin owns 51% of the pipeline, the gas pipeline that ran through Ukraine. Bro, it was basically his in the first place. He was just protecting his asset at a certain point. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. You can't get mad at a man for protecting what's his. He's 51%
let me sort of
his.
start where we do agree. I don't think that Russia should have invaded Ukraine. And we have to give some due credit here to our good friend, the former president, where everybody accused him of being in bed with Vladimir Putin. But when Donald Trump was president, Vladimir Putin didn't invade his neighbors. He did, of course, during the administration of Obama, the administration of Kamala Harris, and the administration even of George W. Bush, of course, a fellow Republican. So let's give some credit. I don't think Vladimir Putin would have invaded Ukraine if Donald Trump had been president and we had some deterrence established.
I agree with that assessment.
Not saying you disagree.
There's some magic between Putin and Trump that I've asked Trump 15 times what it is. He won't tell me. But
I think it's tough, but I also think that Donald Trump is smart when he engages with people. Bill, he actually talks to them and engages in real diplomacy. But let's go back to what do we do now? Okay, so we're in the situation now. What do we do now? Okay, so here, every European country says that they're going to spend at least 2% of GDP on defense. Most of them haven't actually honored that commitment. So what needs to happen, in my view, is that NATO, Europe, needs to focus on Russia and Ukraine so that America can pivot to the real challenge for us, which is China. And I don't think, Bill, unfortunately, that we have the manufacturing capacity because we ship our industrial base overseas. We don't make enough artillery shells. We don't make enough Patriot interceptors to support the war.
What's so crazy? Democrats lean so hard on climate change and all that, and then we try to police ourselves when China is is the biggest contributor to pollution.
Yeah, low key.
But nobody tries to check China. We all just check ourselves. Like, bro, Europe is trying so hard to check themselves in every way to go green. They don't even have
AC, bro, in Europe, low
bro,
key.
Europe only produces 7% of the pollution on Earth.
Wow.
Only 7%, and they are doing all this. But nobody want to look at China and be like, hey, yo, y'all get y'all stuff together. For some reason, we're all afraid to hold China accountable, but we want to hold every other country accountable. It don't make any sense.
China is just producing too much goods like the world needs, so I think they just turn a blind eye generally.
Man, bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. These goods they selling, bro, we're literally the reason why the economy is still afloat at a certain point. Like, they're not even having enough kids to sustain what they're doing at. Like, China's on the collapse. And this is why they're going out abroad, buying up land in Africa, buying up infrastructure out there, because they realize that their own thing they got going on is falling apart. So they got to go for outward expansion. And it looks a little better when you just own the infrastructure instead of putting your name on it and saying, oh, yeah, now this African land is now called China now.
Right.
It sounds a little better, but, you owning their infrastructure and then paying you financially, it kind of sounds like that's the state of China. But, hey, it's how they frame it.
Ukraine indefinitely. So we have to ask ourselves, where can we focus? Where do we have to focus? And my view is, let's focus on China and let's force the Europeans to carry more of their share.
I hope you guys will rethink this thing. Trump knows he can't say publicly what he's going to do. But I think this is really vital, because this Putin, he's really a mentally unbalanced man, in my opinion.
He's a mentally unbalanced man, but he's running a Christian Orthodox country. Okay, and it's has one of the top 10 financial systems in the world. One of the top 10 economies in the world. Look, we can all low-key-ish talk Putin all day. We can just talk down on Putin all day, but the words and the numbers speak for himself. His people love him. And let's keep it real. We kind of need to play nice with a man that we was getting our 7% of our oil from. We was getting a decent amount of our oil from him. And that's one of the reasons why our prices went up as well. So, bro, this Ukraine war does not help us at all. Beefing with Putin, it wasn't, bro, I don't even know where we got the idea to do that and thought that was going to work out well for us. Beefing with one of the main superpowers in the world, where does that make sense?
Well, I think the majority of, I would say, world leaders and NATO alike resent him for his view on Ukraine, and his Trump explained it as a lust. He literally explained it as a lust that Putin had for Ukraine, and he's seen it in his eyes when he was in office.
Because, bro,
that was a quote from Trump.
Because, bro, you wanna know why? Bro, one, he has ethnic Russians. He he's a real nationalist. So
right.
Russian is Russian to him. And as well, he owns 51% of the pipeline that's running through there. So not only does he have, I guess, a personal investment with people in there, but he also has financial investment. Dog, you ain't touching that shit either, bro. Imagine you had that type of investment in a small plot of land. You let anybody touch that?
Nah.
Exactly.
You finna go to war about that, literally.
So why are we mad at him?
And he's kept the casualties to
a minimum, as much as we possibly.
I mean, it's war. It's war,
man.
So I hesitantly,
and unlike the Israel and Hamas war, it's a fair war.
I hesitantly and knowingly say that the casualties have been kept at a low, but yeah, he's tried at least. I'll say.
Win there.
We do not support Putin's agenda or his government.
There would be some détente there.
But we do support the right for him to protect his land.
I hear you, Bill, and I understand. Just one final point on that, if I might.
Sure.
I think certainly Russia's in a world of hurt. I also think Ukraine is in a world of hurt. And again, we have to ask ourselves, can this go on indefinitely? I don't like the Biden administration approach of basically saying, we're just going to keep on doing this thing however long it takes with no strategy, no end in sight. I think Donald Trump actually does have a plan to bring about an end to the conflict. Of course, you're exactly right. He's not going to telegraph it.
Make sure the super chat in.
He's not going to telegraph it. But I think that Donald Trump is actually the president of peace and stability in the world.
We're going to see that when we reelect the president.
Hopefully, because stability in the world is paramount, and we got to stop these people. All right, last question. This is a little bit lighter. So you and Oprah Winfrey were best buds. All right?
No, Trump and Oprah Winfrey were best buds.
Oprah, on the TV last night at Democratic Convention, she wasn't mean to you. She mocked you about the cat lady stuff, which, believe me, is about as inconsequential a statement as I've ever seen. I knew what you were trying to do. You were mocking liberal feminists who, don't really respect the family unit. However, Oprah's up there. She helped your tremendous success, literary success. Did you see it, and what is your reaction to it?
Well, I first of all, I don't know if it's tremendous literary success compared to you, Bill. I think you probably sold more books than anybody I've ever talked to.
Believe me, your book's a classic. And to get Amy Adams into your movie, I mean, my God. I mean, Opie did a good job, Ron Howard. But
he did.
Amy
he did.
was lights out in that way. But Oprah helped you and liked you. I mean, you guys had a good relationship. And now there's Oprah up there. I don't know what Oprah actually said. I was trying to figure it out, but she was in Mississippi and then she's someplace else. I don't know. But what was your reaction personally to it?
Let's go ahead.
I try not to take this stuff too seriously, Bill. When you enter the public arena, people are going to attack you. I wish Oprah all the best. And I wish, more importantly, that Oprah had talked about what Kamala Harris has done instead of what Kamala Harris will do. My criticism.
Bro, I would like Oprah to explain. So what's the backtrack for? Like, you went from having Trump on your show, y'all patting each other on the back, all this good stuff. Trump even said that if he ran for president, he would want Oprah to be the VP.
They was best friends. They said she loved Trump back in the 90s and early 2000s, man.
Yeah, man.
It's like every other black celebrity.
So, conspiracy theory time, what they got on Oprah. Oprah single, no kids. I think she got divorced. You know, billionaire. What they got on Oprah?
That land she bought in Hawaii when they were having those major island forest fires.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. All right, you're right.
Her, Mark Zuckerberg, who else? I mean, you said conspiracy theory time, right?
Yeah, you're right. Because, like, what would it take for somebody to be a longtime friend then for you to just turn against you like that? Like, all of a sudden. Like, come on.
Of yesterday is the entire theme of this was about what Kamala Harris, her vision, what she will do when she's been the sitting vice president for 3.5 years. We have higher inflation, higher housing prices, and lower wages because of it. These people have got to stop talking about Kamala Harris as if she hasn't been the vice president for 3.5 years. So I'm going to keep it, whether it's Oprah or anybody else, I'm going to keep it focused on policy. I wish Oprah all the best, but I want her
Appreciate the
candidate
support.
to
Got
lose
over
because I want the
500 of
American
y'all
people
in
to
here,
thrive.
man.
All right.
Quick pause for the cause, man. Go ahead and like the video. Double tap the screen, man. Show some support. Also, you can hit the 3 buttons in the upper right-hand corner. Go ahead and smash that like button, as well as subscribe, man. We on our way to 4,000. S.E.T Media, we going up, man. Might as well get it with us on the journey, really.
Oh, yeah, and send a super chat in if you wanted to be responded, reacted to, or if you just have a joke or something you want to be read to the audience. All right, appreciate the support.
And just keep this in mind, Vice President Harris has been on the federal scene for 7.5 years, 4 in the Senate. No bill got even voted on that she was associated with, none. And then as vice president, as everybody knows, she backed Biden 100% on all those failed policies. So that wasn't too bad, right? I know your people were saying O'Reilly's too mean and all this, but that wasn't too bad, was it?
Not bad at all, man. Again, I'm honored to speak with you. I've been a big fan for a long time, so hopefully we can do it again.
All right, Senator. And
oh, God. Bill O'Reilly been in this mug for a minute.
United States, we're
But
the ones who
Lady
need
speaks
it
on a
worse.
crime campaign event in
Let the rest
Wisconsin.
of the
Don't worry, though,
world
I ain't gonna bore you with the
family
BS.
that did not have a whole lot of money, that often had a pretty, we had sometimes a rough neighborhood.
Here we go.
A single person in our community. And I think, unfortunately, we have a very stark contrast between 2 approaches to police and 2 approaches to public safety in this race. We have Vice President Kamala Harris, who's really the acting president, because, we know Joe Biden isn't home, so somebody's calling the shots, and I guess it's Kamala.
Oh, man.
Hey.
And what we have in Kamala
Call him
Harris
out,
is
call
a
him out.
person who has said that she wants to defund the police. Do we want to defund the police out there? This is a person who wants to change the laws around violent criminals so that people who commit sex crimes with minors would not be categorized as violent offenders. Do we think that's a good idea?
Bro, and it's crazy. Like,
No.
I would tell you, all these catch a predator channels, bro, they've been mostly meeting up with immigrants.
Illegal immigrants.
Undocumented illegal immigrants. They're coming over here and they're trying to, mess with kids.
The story of the little girl, Jocelyn, the 12-year-old, who
Yeah.
was
Oh,
ambushed and
Lord.
deleted by 2 Venezuelan immigrants.
Oh, Lord.
That's the most tragic story, but there's stories alike and probably some shit we don't even know about. But the immigration just presents a danger to Americans who just are regular Americans, paying their taxes, going to work. Like, why should we have to worry about people who shouldn't be here committing crimes on us?
Oh, man. Yeah, you ain't lying, G.
No, absolutely
You're not
not.
lying,
It's not a good idea. Now, by contrast, we have President
Like
Donald
illegally entering
J.
is one
Trump,
thing, but
who
murdering
supported
citizens?
police, who
Good
backed the
why?
blue,
Like, come on. You have to like these people are coming here and going to work. No, they're
and
going
who
here and
made
committing
it
crimes.
easier for police to do their jobs. And remember, this is not just about making it easy on our police. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that when we make it easy on police, we make it so that every child in America has access to a basic right, which is public safety in their neighborhoods. And ladies, you know, ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in a family that did not have a whole lot of money, that often had a pretty
shout out Franz, man.
sometimes
What's up,
a rough
Franz?
neighborhood. But we were lucky enough to grow up in a country that believed that public safety was the right, the birthright of every American citizen, rich or poor, and we supported our police in carrying out that mission of public safety. I remember, actually, I think I was probably 11 or 12
Update
years
from
old,
the
and my mom
Friends,
struggled with addiction, and she was having a particularly tough
700K.
episode, and I called.
700K reportedly taken out in Ukraine, pretty much. 700K Ukrainians or altogether, I believe. We're still waiting on that update.
Called the local police in Middletown, Ohio. And I remember they showed up
Middletown.
and they took care of my mom, and they made a little kid who was terrified of what was going on in his home, they made that little kid feel safe. And I think about what situation would I have been in,
died fighting for their land.
and what situation our country would be in if we take away every child's right to public safety. And that's unfortunately what the Democratic leadership is proposing in this country. You know how bad it's been the last few years? Have you seen the data on murder rates, on violent crime rates? You know that the gross majority now of violent crimes in this country go unsolved. So if, God forbid, you were assaulted in your own community, it's much more likely today that that crime will go unsolved, that they'll never catch the person who did it. Wow. That is because of the leadership of our vice president. Now she wants to be promoted to President of the United States, and I think we're all going to say absolutely not. Kamala Harris, we're going to fire Kamala Harris in November.
Hey.
And we're going to bring back Donald J. Trump.
Not that you're fired.
Now, before I move on here, I want to bring up a couple of folks, a couple of great public servants here in the state of Wisconsin.
Hey, you fired a black woman. That goes against DEI. Weak as hell. You know they're going to be mad about that.
And by the way, we're going to win Wisconsin in November. I feel as confident about it as I ever have been. And you guys are going to make it happen. But I want to have just a couple of people say a few things here. And I'm going to start here with Pete Dietz, the president of the Kenosha Professional Police Association. I'd love, Pete, if you would come and say just a few words about what's going on here today. Where's Pete? There he is. All right, Pete, come on up here.
Come on, Pete.
All right, everybody, please give a round of applause for Pete Dietz.
Oh, wait. Watch out, Pete.
Super chat, any comments or questions?
Well, I'm not going to give my speech again.
Jokes.
You'll have to check it out on the TV.
Remarks.
But the board of directors of the Kenosha Professional Police Association
$1 and
are
up.
proud to endorse President Donald Trump and Senator J.D. Vance.
When Pete walked up here, he said, "I just saw you in Milwaukee," and I said, "Yeah, I remember that. I basically live in Wisconsin now. I don't know if you guys figured that out. So you'll be seeing a lot. You'll be seeing a lot of me over the next few months. But Pete, thank you so much for your support. I'd like to have. We'll see about that, sir. I'd like to have. I'd like to call up Congressman Brian Stiles. Congressman Brian, where are you at? Out there. There we are. So Brian. I'm going to give him a round of applause. I appreciate it. But Brian wrote a really, really good article about what happened in Kenosha in 2020. Really opened my eyes. Brian, thank you for your leadership and service.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay. I'm assuming they're referring to the riots.
Mm-hmm.
Senator Vance, thanks for coming to Kenosha today. As we talked about earlier, the importance of standing with the men and women of law enforcement could not be more important than when we're standing here in the city of Kenosha. As we saw 4 years ago this week, what happens when elected leaders refuse to stand with the men and women of law enforcement? And we saw in great contrast what happens when leaders like President Trump answer the call and stand with the men and women of law enforcement and bring public safety to our community, right?
Yeah.
And as we look around, I think it's really
like
important that we say thank you once again to all the men and women of law enforcement from the Kenosha Police Department, Kenosha Sheriff's Department, and other law enforcement agencies that are with us here today. Because President Trump, because J.D. Vance, because we back the badge. Senator Vance, thanks for coming to Wisconsin. We still have time to make you a Packers fan. Thank you. God bless. God bless America.
Nah.
Thank you.
Bengals or Browns?
Wrong guy. Little Ohio
We got
boy.
some Chicago fans out there too. Wow. All right. We're gonna have some conflict, some civil strife here. Not today. We're all here to support the police, whatever our sports allegiance is. And finally, I want to get a great future colleague in Washington, a guy who built a business in Wisconsin, who has served the people of this state in the private sector, and is now crazy enough to want to serve in the public sector. The great Eric Hovde, the next senator from the state of Wisconsin. Eric, come on up here.
My man is funny. I ain't good at.
Well, as I walk through, Kamala Harris has failed at every single role that she played.
Damn.
From state AG
home back.
or DA for San
Okay.
Francisco
He cooking.
or a senator
He came in
pushing
cooking.
the dumbest idea,
Whoa.
defund the police. And now as vice
my friend,
president
cook.
and opening our southern border. Look, as I said, we all want to live in safe communities. And you could not get a more distinct difference between these two sides. The radical, leftist, Kamala Harris, Governor Walz, and Senator Tammy Baldwin, or President Trump, J.D. Vance, and Eric Hovde. And we are going to back law enforcement. And let me tell you, anybody that doesn't, my wife has a great line. Walk a day in their shoes. They go out every day to defend our communities, defend you, put risk of their own personal safety. So walk a day in their shoes.
That's facts.
I support law enforcement. President Trump, J.D. Vance will always have your back, and we will never incorporate such a crazy idea as defund the police. So let's restore our safety, bring back this wonderful country, and thank you, Vice President, soon to be Vice President Vance.
All right, so I want to take a few questions from the press, but before I do, let me just try to bring this home here because it is very easy.
Like I said, I always feel like they just need a psychology lesson.
Yeah.
Like, all right, bro, let's build up your EQ and all that good stuff because y'all need to know how to deal with people if you're going to be out here, dealing with people. And y'all can't be so quick to draw a gun. Like, come on now. And we got to do a little bit better psychological tests on these people because, like, come on, the whole Sonia Massey thing, that is low-key an example of a police who did not receive a proper psych evaluation.
Yeah, you could tell he wasn't sensitive at all to somebody who, I mean, they might say she had mental health problems, but I would say she was just in a frantic moment.
Bruh.
And if they can't deal with people in frantic moment, that's when most of these shootings and these police involved deaths end up happening.
Yeah. Untrained, unhinged police officers.
And very fun to criticize the record of Kamala Harris, but we also have
Shout
to
out to the ones though that do got their shit together.
Over 400 of y'all in here, man. We appreciate
we don't just have a bunch of
everybody,
promises on the
every
Trump
viewer,
campaign.
man. Go ahead and like the video.
4 years of
Double
Donald
tap
Trump's
that
successful
screen, man.
leadership that brought public safety to our streets, and that is something to celebrate and look forward to. So here is President Trump's solemn promise to our law enforcement community and all of us who benefit from their sacrifices and their public safety. It is simple. We are going to end sanctuary cities in this country. We're going to bring back pro-law enforcement cities. We are going to deport the violent, illegal aliens that have come into this country over the last few years. No more free rides, no more amnesty. We're going to support the death penalty for drug dealers because they kill far more people than some of the most violent and vicious criminals. We have got to have real penalties for people who are killing our kids and poisoning our communities.
No, I don't got it. I'm gonna be real with you. If you could, he's saying that because, bro, if you come out of Ohio, bro, we have a terrible opioid fentanyl epidemic that's taking out a lot of people. Like, bro, it's taking out the crackheads that just used to do crack. Now it's laced with fentanyl. They died. Bro, your cokeheads, they just used to want to go to do their partying. I don't agree to do any of these, okay? Don't do it. But the people that want to do it have the right to be able to do it and live. They over here putting fentanyl and all this stuff, and it's killing these people. And it's happening all over Ohio, bro. We have people taking Percocets, thinking that it's a Percocet. It's a fentanyl. They die within like 4 hours or so. It's a very sad thing that's going on here in Ohio. So I can low-key see why he's taking such a strong stance. Like, yo, these niggas deserve the death penalty. And I agree in some point. If they selling fentanyl, death penalty. Yes, let's go ahead and give it to them.
We're going to protect police
if it's just
from
weed,
frivolous
come on
lawsuits. You hear President Trump talk about that. The reason that it's so hard for the police to do their job sometimes is they know if they do their job, they're going to get sued for it. We're going to protect them from those lawsuits and make it easier for our police to do their jobs. And finally, we're going to stand up to soft-on-crime prosecutors. If a police officer does their job and brings in a bad guy, we need some prosecutors who actually lock those people up and put them behind bars. It's common sense. All this stuff is just simple common sense. Now, we know what happens when we don't have leadership who support our law enforcement. We saw it in Kenosha just a few years ago. You all know this better than I do, that 4 years ago, Kenosha had terrible riots after a police shooting. And who was it? Who was the president of the United States that promised that he would send in law enforcement if asked? That was Donald Trump. Who was it that pacified the streets of Wisconsin and ensured that those riots didn't spiral out of control and burn down the entire city? That was President Donald J. Trump. And, of course, we know the governor didn't initially want the support from President Trump, but after a couple days of those riots, he relented and did the smart thing and allowed President Trump to send federal support. Without that, I really think that Kenosha would still be recovering from those terrible riots today. But today, look, we're in a beautiful place, and it's a beautiful town, and we can thank President Trump's leadership and also the law enforcement who did their jobs and did it well. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. Now, I will always have the back of law enforcement. Let's bring up our reporters here to ask some questions. I will always have the backs of law enforcement. I will always support our police officers because I know what it's like, again, to be a kid who can't even believe and can't even rely on public safety. I want every single child in this country, whether they're rich or poor, whether they grow up on the right side of the tracks or the wrong side of the tracks, every child deserves to have public safety, and that's what we're going to do when Donald J. Trump is president. God bless you guys. Thank you all for coming out.
God bless America.
Semper Fi, thank you to these great public servants. Let's get Eric Humphrey across the finish line, and let's make this country great again. God bless you guys. And what I'll do here is I'd love to start out.
It's a question.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd love to start out with local Wisconsin reporters and take a few questions from the local reporters. And then if we've got time afterwards, we'll take some questions from the national folks. So if you're a local reporter, please raise your hand. Ma'am?
Hi, Senator. Thank you for your time. It's Mary Jo Ola with TMJ4 News here in Milwaukee. You were just in Milwaukee a few days ago, now in Kenosha. Can you just talk about how much of a priority Wisconsin is to the Trump campaign and where are you headed next in Wisconsin?
Well, look, I just like Wisconsin a lot, right? So I'm going to spend a lot of time with you fine people. But obviously, politically, Wisconsin may be very well the most important state in the country come November. And we believe that. We know that. All the polling says it. But most of all, you feel it on the ground. Look, Wisconsin is a state that I think has really suffered from two failures of the Kamala Harris presidency, vice presidency. The first is Wisconsin is a great and proud manufacturing state with a lot of skilled craftsmen and a lot of people who work with their own hands, make things with their own hands, and they know that with Kamala Harris's policies that raise the cost of energy, you're shipping a lot of good manufacturing jobs off to China. President Trump and I believe we ought to keep those manufacturing jobs right here in Wisconsin. Let's do it with Wisconsin workers, and let's produce prosperity for the whole country. And the second thing is, you saw it with the riots in Kenosha in the summer of 2020. Wisconsin has suffered when you don't have good, smart, pro-public safety leadership. And that's what Donald Trump and I want to bring back to the White House is back in the blue, supporting our police officers and making sure that public safety is the birthright of every American citizen. I think that message, that shared economic and public safety message, is going to bring Wisconsin home to Republicans in 2024, and it's going to make Donald Trump the President of the United States again. So, yes, it's very important.
Yeah, let's go. Okay.
I also say, when my kids came up here for the RNC convention 4 or 5 weeks ago, the one place they really wanted to go was the Cheese Castle. So, if you've all, how many of you have been to the Cheese Castle? All right, good. So my kids have been to the Cheese Castle. The first time I ever came to Wisconsin was 12 years ago with my then girlfriend, now my wife. We made our stop at the Wisconsin Cheese Castle. So every time we come back, we got to stop at the Wisconsin Cheese Castle. But it's good to be here, and we love this state.
Wisconsin Cheese Castle.
Other local reporters, man.
Hi, Megan Marshall with Spectrum News. This is the second endorsement from a local law enforcement here in Wisconsin. Tell me why that's so important to you and your campaign.
Well, I think it speaks to the fact that law enforcement knows who's on their side, right? Donald Trump has been endorsed by so many law enforcement organizations across the country, but now 2 in the state of Wisconsin just the past week, because they know that Donald Trump is the one who's actually going to stand up for them and support them. I mean, look, we have got.
Hey man, some of y'all super chat some of these comments and questions in me. I got some great
certainly
ones.
Right here in the state of Wisconsin, a lot of our police departments are underfunded and under-resourced. We don't have enough cops to do the job of keeping us safe. And then on top of that, we've got Mexican drug cartels operating as far north as Kenosha, Wisconsin, because we have a border czar, Kamala Harris, who refuses to do her job. These guys just want common sense back, right? Some of them are Democrats, some of them are Republicans. Maybe they agree or disagree with us on tax policy, but they agree with us that we've got to have common sense public safety. And if we don't have public safety, we don't have anything. You can't build a business. You can't go to work. You can't take your kids on a walk in your neighborhood without public safety. Public safety is the foundation of having a good country, and the police of Wisconsin know Donald Trump is the public safety candidate.
Okay.
A few more locals.
He's cooking on all points.
I'm
Okay.
Gina Hilliard with Channel 12 from up in Milwaukee. Obviously, there is a big event happening not too far away from here over in Chicago. Did you catch any of the DNC tonight, or last night? If you did, what were your immediate thoughts?
Well, my immediate thoughts were all the people booing. I agree with them. That was my response to it, was boo. I watched little bits and pieces of it. We were out campaigning yesterday, so I got home to Cincinnati a little on the later side yesterday. So I watched some of it. I will say just the contrast between the public safety policies of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is really striking. And it's almost a joke to me that they held it in Chicago, which has become the murder capital of the United States of America, thanks to very failed Democrat leadership. I mean, I believe.
I low-key thought that was kind of crazy to hold it in like Chicago, one of the most failed Democratic cities, in the United States. So to hold it there was kind of crazy. I was like, damn, don't you got a better city to hold it in? I know it's a famous city, but I kind of failed that city, especially Obama, who was a governor during those times. So let's be real. Chicago was not the best pick.
Last weekend in the city of Chicago, you had something like 40 shootings and 17 people who lost their lives. That is something that we would not accept in a third world country, much less in one of our beautiful, great American cities like Chicago. And my little theory about why they decided to have the convention in Chicago is, Tim Walz has been going around saying that he served in war.
Tampons.
And maybe they did it in Chicago so that he could actually accurately say that he visited a combat zone. Because Chicago, I mean, look, Chicago has violent crime statistics that actually mirror, again, third world, highly violent countries. Again, public safety is the birthright of every citizen in this country. Poor or rich, black or white, nobody should be growing up in a community where you have a murder rate like that.
Man.
And I think it is a good contrast between the policies of Kamala Harris that promote violent crime and the criminals who do it, and the policies of Donald J. Trump who promote peace, who promote prosperity, and want to throw the violent criminals behind bars. That's what Donald J. Trump wants to do, and I share that. What? Anybody else here? Ma'am? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Stephanie Quirk with Fox 6 News in Milwaukee. Kind of going off the DNC, Vice President Kamala Harris is paying a visit to Milwaukee tonight, holding a rally. Do you have any response to that?
No response. Look, I mean, Kamala Harris is going to run the campaign that she runs. I would say that I wish that she would do what I'm doing right now, which is talk to the media and actually answer some tough questions.
Bruh, that's what we all been wanting from Harris, to talk to the media, answer some tough questions, go on, bro. He went on Meet the Press. Why can't she go on Fox News then? Like, come on now. Like, why can't she step in the fire for just a little bit and answer some tough questions? That's all we want.
I mean, if you think what I'm doing here right now, what am I asking? The question I'm asking is for the fine people gathered to vote.
Man, if you want to know our thoughts and opinions on certain topics, man, just super chat $1 up in with your question. We'll go ahead and we'll give you, the reaction and our honest thoughts about it. But you just gotta go ahead and send $1 super chat. If not, it's cool. It's cool. Just watch the video, like and subscribe, and we love you either way. Appreciate the support.
For me to be their vice president of the United States. What an awesome responsibility and what an incredible thing that I'm asking them to do. Now, Kamala Harris is going around asking people to be their president of the United States, but she won't answer a single tough question, and she won't interact with the American people unless there's a teleprompter standing between them and her. And I think that's crazy. And I think that what the media has got to start doing is it's got to start saying, look, if Kamala Harris is not going to stand and answer some tough questions, we're going to stop giving her this fake fawning coverage. Demand that she do what any president has had to do, which is answer some tough questions. But look, her argument, I can't get over this, because you watch her rallies, and Kamala's argument is something that I could not stay with a straight face. She stands there and says on day one, she's going to tackle the housing affordability crisis in our country. On day one, she's going to tackle the grocery affordability crisis in our country, and they are crises. Well, Kamala, day one was 3.5 years ago. You've been the vice president for 3.5 years. What the hell have you been doing?
Low key, but we got to take it back a little bit on that.
Yeah, I do hate the fact that Kamala has not been in an extemporaneous scenario, not once. Not once has she had to be in a position where she's answering questions off the hip. So what do you think about this? What do you think about this?
Put her in the hot seat.
Some type of questioning or journalist that's on her ass and not letting her loose on certain
And you know
shit.
so funny about that day one? Bro, day one could be the day for her. You're an acting president, fix it today. Why you gotta wait till you win the election? Wouldn't you gain more votes if you just start today? But, well, shoot, she could have thought about she was vice president.
She's already showing us the type of leader she is.
Yeah, she's I need a milk for everything is worth before I fix it.
She did that when she was DA.
Housing affordability crisis.
The history of this shit.
On day one, she's going to tackle the grocery affordability crisis in our country, and they are crises.
Double tap the screen.
Day one was
hit the 3.5
years ago. You've been the vice president for 3.5 years. What the hell have you been doing for all that time?
Thank you.
So for the people in Milwaukee who are going to go to her rally or going to listen to what she says, I just asked them if she has such good ideas for how to bring down the cost of food and groceries and housing, why doesn't she do it now? She's the vice president. Not talk about what she's going to do in 6 months. Do it now, because she's got the power right now. Thank you. Any other locals? Okay, we'll do a couple nationals, and then we got to hit the road.
Hey.
Go ahead, man.
Senator Merrill Cornfield from the Washington Post. I have a policy question for
Great.
you. We don't want to talk about policy? So my question is, before you were in the Senate, there was the vote on the Violence Against Women Act. And one of the hiccups with negotiating that bill was, should people who are convicted of stalking be able to possess firearms? What do you think about that?
Well, look, I think that we certainly don't want violent criminals to have access to weapons. And that includes people, I think, who have been convicted of stalking. But I think it's important to say convicted. And what a lot of those of us who are pro-Second Amendment, what we don't want is, we don't want somebody to have their gun rights taken away when they haven't actually been in a court of law, right? Whether it's a First Amendment right, a Second Amendment right, any right, you are entitled to due process in this country. And so the criticisms that I've seen of that are not that certainly people who are convicted of a crime, they should not be able to carry a firearm. But people who have not gone through due process, they still have their rights, whether First Amendment, Second Amendment, whether walking around liberty or other rights. And I think that's an important distinction here between our approach and the Democrats' approach. We don't believe in the Republican Party that you should take people's rights away unless they've gone through a court of law.
Up to whatever grade of firearm they deem necessary. I get tired of the people saying you don't need an AR-15 to defend yourself. Well, if I say I do, why the fuck can't I have one?
You can't tell me I can't, because I see kids out here with this shit. There are kids out here with AR-15s and all that. So you think I'm not going to have an AR-15 when these little hooligans got them? What do you think I am, bro? Come on now. A sitting duck? Nah. I'm getting myself what I need.
To just have me my little pistol. I'll have up to an RPG rocket launcher if I need it.
If needed.
If I need it.
Trump has been reported.
But we don't need that right now.
Guys, she's one of the good CNN reporters. There's like two of them. She's okay.
Back to my question. So Donald Trump has enlisted the help of Tulsi Gabbard to prep for his debate. I'd like to know how you were prepping for a debate with Tim Walz, who has described himself as a bad debater. Who's helping you, and how are you prepping?
Well, I found a good friend from back home who embellishes and lies a lot, and I'm having him stand in for Tim Walz. That's what we're doing during our debate. But look,
I'm weak.
All kidding aside, what we're going to do is
I got one of my homies, known liar. I've been practicing with him.
The way that I'm trying to prepare is to try to make sure that we're prepared to answer the American people's questions on how we're going to make their lives better, how we're going to make their communities safer, how we're going to bring back prosperity and low prices to the American economy. And we're going to focus on policy. And then obviously we're going to answer whatever questions the moderators have. That's how we're focusing. And by the way, just on President Trump, we have to remember Tulsi Gabbard was a Democratic congresswoman just a few years ago. She ran against Kamala Harris back in 2020, and now she is firmly behind the Trump-Vance ticket. We're actually the ticket that is supported by common sense people across the spectrum. I think Tulsi Gabbard, you saw her. I mean, she basically ended Kamala's campaign on the debate stage, so she's a hell of a debater. But she's also one of these people who believes in some common sense things, like we shouldn't send America's sons and daughters off.
For those of y'all think that we're sexist and all that, and we don't approve of female leadership, well, Tulsi Gabbard would have been a great choice for VP. Either that or Vivek. Either one of those would have kind of like leaned Trump off that, white nationalist, type of thing they said he got going on. And he's free to pick whoever you want. But if he wanted to kind of take that label off him, like the Democrats like to put on him, I'd have had to pick either Tulsi Gabbard or Vivek. Just saying.
Off the fighting stupid wars, right? Amen to that, Tulsi. And I think it's really telling that the campaign that has brought a lot of Democrats and Republicans and independents together, it's the campaign of Donald J. Trump. And that's very important. We'll do one more question. Sir.
Hey, Senator. Zach Alashak, Washington Examiner. I had a question. Last year, you got a lot of attention for visiting striking UAW members in Ohio. Last night, Sean Fain attacked you at the DNC and Donald Trump. Do you believe the party's going to attract more union voters this cycle? And kind of what's the strategy to do that?
Look, I think that my message to Sean Fain and any other leader of the labor movement would be, who is the campaign? Which campaign is actually going to protect the jobs of American workers, union and non-union alike? It's the campaign of Donald J. Trump. So sign up, get involved, and support the candidate that's actually going to protect your jobs. Now, Sean Fain, he'll go on TV and say that a majority of his membership is going to actually back Donald Trump. Why are a majority of auto workers going to back Donald Trump? The same reason a majority of American manufacturers across the spectrum are going to back Donald Trump, because he's the one who wants to protect their job. He's the one who's saying, if the Chinese want to use slave labor and then import stuff into our country, we're going to put tariffs on the stuff they make with slave labor, and we're going to protect the jobs of American workers. When Kamala Harris says she stands for the United Auto Workers, and yet she supports EV mandates that's going to have every single one of their jobs destroyed and shipped to China, because it's China that's making most of the EVs. In America, we're still making a lot of gas-powered cars. I think people ought to be able to drive whatever the hell they want, because
Tim Walz owned no property, no business, no nothing. But guess where he vacations in?
China.
Yup.
Beijing, to be exact.
So
visits there several times a year.
A real commie who doesn't own nothing, who believes you should own nothing and give it to the government and like it, I ain't gonna lie. It kind of sounds like we're setting ourselves up with Kamala and Waltz for, communism. Because look at how Waltz lives his lifestyle. Look it
Call
up.
her a Marxist, communist.
Owns nothing.
This is the United States of America. We don't tell people what to
Allegedly.
do. But importantly,
supposedly,
if we don't tell people what to do, they're going to be able to buy cars that are made in America with American workers doing the jobs. And that is why I think we're going to win the majority of union and non-union workers in this country. Whatever Sean Fain says, if he listens to his membership, they're behind Donald J. Trump. And, of course, there are a lot of other workers who aren't just auto workers who are exactly the same position. All right. What I'll say here finally to wrap up, thanks to the media for asking a few questions, is just God bless you guys. Thank you for coming out.
All up to the government.
I get so much joy and so much energy out of being here and meeting people and getting to talk to people and seeing what's going on in this country. We're going to win this race in November, and it's going to start. It's going to start right here in Wisconsin. So what I'd ask all of you is, look. We've got 76 days to this campaign, and early voting probably starts, 30 days early in Wisconsin? Get out there, get your neighbors to the polls, get your family members to the polls, knock on doors, make phone calls. We are going to win this race if we get out there and vote. So God bless you all. Thank you for being here. Let's go vote, Wisconsin. Let's go win it.
All right. Wasn't too bad. And then we got one more.
Let the rest of the world help us for change and rebuild America.
Don't worry, we ain't gonna bore you with
law enforcement harder. Look, it's interesting that they are running, trying to pretend to be tough on crime people. Kamala Harris says that she's now tough on crime. She's got religion. She found Jesus about being tough on crime, and she found it about a month ago when Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race.
Yo.
Because the record of Kamala Harris and the record of her running mate is doing everything they can to make the lives of our law enforcement harder, to make it harder for them to keep our communities safe. Kamala Harris was the prosecutor in San Francisco, California. And if you think San Francisco, California has been well run from a tough on crime perspective, then I've got another thing to tell you. One of the most, by the way, a beautiful city, San Francisco, California, has been destroyed by the leadership of people like Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris wants to take San Francisco liberalism nationwide, and I think we are not going to let her. Georgia is not going to let her, and it starts right here in Valdosta.
The whole EV thing is complete BS.
Now let's just run through the contrast a little bit, the difference between Kamala Harris's record on law enforcement and Donald Trump's record. Now Kamala Harris, she wanted to make sex crimes with minors a non-violent offense, which means more of these sickos out on the streets of our country.
Hell no, I don't know what's worse, that or Tampon Tim trying to put gender-affirming bathrooms and tampons next to your toilet paper, right next to your fourth grader.
Man, or tax on future value.
What was it? Unrealized gains?
Yeah, unrealized gains. You're like, yo, so if I have $1 million business,
man,
but I'm only making I would say you're probably gonna pull in at least $50K a year off it. Maybe you never know what type of employment you got to do and all that.
So many factors.
Yeah, and they're charging you on $1 million instead of what you make,
bro. That doesn't make any sense. But quick pause for the cause, man. Let's get the likes up, man. Go ahead and double tap the screen, man. Show some support. Also, you can hit the 3 buttons in the right-hand corner. Go ahead and smash that like button, man. And feel free to check out our catalog. We got a deep background, a deep vault, man. Scroll through. You're bound to find something in there you love. We go live daily. If it ain't me, if it ain't Set, if it ain't both of us in here cooking up, man. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. Turn the notifications on so you don't miss out. Set and Key Media.
Appreciate
y'all.
That?
Absolutely not. Kamala Harris wanted to defund the police. She said it on video. Do we want to defund the police? No. Kamala Harris wants to make it easier for soft on crime prosecutors to go after our law enforcement. Do we want that? No. So do we want Kamala Harris as the prosecutor in chief of this country? No, we want Donald J. Trump, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Okay.
Now, as Kamala Harris was doing all those things, let's remember the record of Donald J. Trump. When Kenosha, Wisconsin, which I was at just a few days ago, Kenosha, Wisconsin was about to burn in a terrible riot. Donald Trump called the governor and affirmatively offered the help of federal officials to stop those riots and to save the city of Kenosha. Donald Trump believes that we ought to properly fund our law enforcement and make sure our police get the pay and the equipment that they need. Donald Trump believes that we ought to stop these soft-on-crime prosecutors. If the police bring in a bad guy, the prosecutors ought to throw him behind bars and keep him there. And most importantly, Donald Trump believes that we ought to make our law enforcement lives easier by closing down that southern border and getting the drug cartels out of our communities.
Appreciate the support.
Now, I have to say that Kamala Harris, given that...
And like we said earlier, send a super chat in for any comments, questions, or anything that you want the chat to hear or that you want us to go ahead and read out loud. Jokes are included too. Just don't go too crazy. We appreciate the support, guys.
She's so into soft-on-crime policy, she did select a good running mate in Tim Walz. They make quite a dynamic duo. If you remember the riots of summer of 2020 when $13 billion of damage was done to the city of Minneapolis, Tim Walz was the governor of Minnesota, and Tim Walz did everything he could to let those rioters burn down the biggest city in his state. And then Kamala Harris did everything she could to bail out the rioters out of prison, right? What a dynamic duo they make. A dynamic duo for people who don't like law enforcement, a dynamic duo for people who want to make our streets less safe. I happen to believe in a very common sense principle that we're going to back the blue and bring public safety back to Georgia and back to our country. Now, Tim Walz, I will say, I've been beating up on Tim Walz a little bit. You may have seen this, but Tim Walz loves to go around and say that he carried a weapon in war. That's what Tim Walz says. And of course, all of the veterans out there will know that Tim Walz never carried a weapon in war. The closest he went to a war zone was Italy, which last time I checked was not a war zone. But in Tim Walz's defense, he did let those rioters burn down Minneapolis, so maybe we should give Tim Walz a little bit of credit. Maybe the combat zone he visited was Minneapolis when he was the governor of Minnesota.
Coming for that. Jesus.
But let's hear now from a great leader in Georgia law enforcement, and I just want to make sure I get Ashley's name right here, but we have a great sheriff in Ashley Polk who has made this community safer. Thank you. And I know he already offered a few words, but Sheriff, if you would, come up and just say a few more words about why we got to back law enforcement. Here's Sheriff Ashley Polk. Give him a round of applause.
All right.
Kind of a tough job to follow a real Marine that went to a real war with a real gun. I mean,
shout out Vance. We forget about that in his history, in his past.
As I said earlier,
he's a veteran.
You couldn't find a better pair than we've got.
He ain't no softy. Yeah, you got to give him that one. He ain't no
They're
softy.
very much pro law enforcement, and y'all know how I feel about that. Because we're there to work together with them. But we have got to get out and get these people elected because it's the most important election I've ever been in my life. It's not even me on the ballot, but I want to. By the way, I did not recognize the person that can really get elected. Where's my wife? It's 7 years.
So yes, for all of y'all talking about J.D. Vance's, because he was in a wig, right? And all that. And they were saying, oh, he wears makeup, he wears wigs and all this good stuff. And I'm like, bro, pull the pictures of when he was a kid. And everybody's going like, yeah, Halloween costume. Like, man, like, why y'all trying so hard to make this man seem, I don't know, effeminate? Like, oh, he wears eyeliner and all this good stuff.
All these politicians do when they get on camera. Even Trump, I'll be honest.
Bro,
everybody that gets on camera like that is probably wearing some type of enhancement.
Bro, even Bill O'Reilly said, oh, you look kind of good. Yeah, you look a little, you look kind of good. He kind of get the joke here. Like, oh, the eyeliner, you look a little good on camera.
Right.
It's like, okay, I catch the side jokes. And shout out Bill O'Reilly, because that was a nice slide jab. I didn't even see that one coming.
That's who's always got me elected, Ginger. Thank you for all you do. You will be working for the party. But let's all get together and get out and work. Carry your neighbors to the polls, and because this is the last chance to save America we'll ever have. If we don't do it this time, we're going to lose it. Thank y'all.
Well, thank you so much, Sheriff, and thanks to your lovely wife for doing what you do. And look, it's very simple here. We have an ability to make this country much safer than it is today. We just need better leadership. We need better leadership at the federal level in particular, because it's the federal government that opened up the southern border and let all these drug cartels bring the drug and crime into our communities. And we're here, of course, not far from where Laken Riley was born and raised. A beautiful, beautiful young girl who would still be alive today if Kamala Harris had done her job and not let these drug cartels come into our community. And I'm proud, and I know President Trump is proud to have been endorsed by local law enforcement here in Georgia, but we also got some good endorsements in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Law enforcement knows that Donald J. Trump is the law and order candidate in this election, and you all have an incredible power to get out the vote, to drive people to the polls, and make sure he actually becomes the next president of the United States. So thank you all for everything that you're doing. Now, I want to take a few questions from the media, but before I take some questions from the press, I want to get a little bit personal here, because the sheriffs here did something for me that I've actually never seen. They took me in to the investigation room and showed me some of the stuff that they've interdicted over the last few months just here in this community. What Valdosta is what, 50,000 people? Small town Georgia, you would not think is so close to the poison that the drug cartels are bringing into this country, but every town is a border town and every state is a border state because of the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you've got sheriffs behind me who are doing everything they can to keep our communities safer, but they need a federal government that makes their job easier and not harder. And I got to tell you, I've got three little kids. I've got a 7-year-old boy, a 4-year-old boy, and a 2-year-old girl. And what they showed me were boxes of candy that looked like nerds, looked like Sour Patch Kids, looked like Snickers bars, and they're boxes of candy that are actually dangerous drugs. And why did the drug cartels manufacture them like that? Because they wanted to hide them from law enforcement. And we know what's going to happen is if a pack of that candy finds its way into our communities or into our playgrounds, some kid, through no fault of their own, is going to pick up a piece of candy and it is going to take their lives from them. And I don't want that to be my child, and I don't want it to be your child either. And that's why we have to fight to change leadership in this election. Think about how sick you would have to be to manufacture drugs that look like children's candy, and think about how sick Kamala Harris has to be to let those people do business in our country instead of throwing them the hell out of our country, which is exactly what we should be doing. This is a disgrace, ladies and gentlemen. This is a disgrace born of our own failed leadership, and we can do so much better. You know, one of my favorite speeches at the RNC convention, well, my most favorite speech was my wife's speech. I thought she did a hell of a job. But thank you. But beyond my wife's, one of my most favorite speeches, and it was a sad speech. She had a beautiful young mother talking about her handsome young kid, and he was maybe 14 years old. And this kid lost his life because he took something that he shouldn't have taken, but it was laced with fentanyl. And I remember watching this mom speak, and I remember thinking to myself that don't we want our kids to grow up in communities where they can make the mistakes that all kids make, and they can learn from it rather than have it become a death sentence? Because we all know, we either have kids, all of us were kids at one point in our life. We all know that kids are going to get into stuff that parents and grandparents don't want them to get into. That's just a part of growing up in this country. But when I grew up, even though I grew up in a poor family, though I grew up in a neighborhood that wasn't always easy, I knew that if I made a mistake, the people around me would take my life. And that's what the policies of Kamala Harris have taken from our children and taken from our neighborhoods. We have got to get back to the kind of country where kids can make childhood mistakes, and the Mexican drug cartels are not going to be there to take advantage of them. And I think that's what this election is ultimately about. We know that kids aren't always going to be perfect, but let's build the kind of Georgia. Let's build the kind of country where our kids can learn and grow. We're going to do it together, but only if you get us across the finish line in Georgia. This is one of the most important states in the union. It always has been, but especially in this election of 2024. So my request is very simple. Do everything you can. Get your friends and family and your neighbors to the polls. Remind that person who sometimes votes but sometimes doesn't that it's their time to get to the polls in 2024 and vote for Donald Trump. If you got a little extra time, thank you. If you got a little time, go down to the GOP headquarters, knock on some doors, make some phone calls. The people who determine whether Donald J. Trump becomes the next president, it's not the media, it's not the dishonest leadership of the Democratic Party, it is us. Donald Trump is the people's president, but only if we do the work to make it so. God bless you guys. Let's get to work. We got 75 days to make Donald J. Trump the next president, and we're going to do it together. God bless you all. Thank you. Now, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Now, let's take some questions from the media. And here's what I'd ask. First of all, if it's a fake news anchor, I'd appreciate y'all just letting them ask their question. It's okay. We can run them out of town after they ask their question. I'm kidding. But what I'd ask, first of all, is we start with local Georgia reporters.
He done effed up. They're going to clip that up. JD says he's going to run certain reporters out of town. Even though he said he was kidding. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's going to be sad.
Because we want to make sure that the local reporters get an opportunity to ask some questions. We'll take a few from local reporters, and then we'll take a few from the national press pool, and then we'll go from there. So where we got local Georgia reporter, throw your hand in the air, and I'll call on you. Yes, sir. The question was, what are some policies that are going to affect rural America and certainly rural South Georgia? And I think, look, the first and most important thing is rural America has been affected by this terrible poison the drug cartels are bringing in as much as anybody. We have got to close down the border and stop the cartels from bringing this poison into our communities. We've got to re-implement basic law and order and public safety policies because, look, I believe whether you live in a big city or a small rural area, whether you're black or white, rich or poor, public safety is the birthright of every American citizen. And if we do that, rural America is going to benefit more than anybody else. And the final point that I'll make is, look, we know that our rural areas, our schools are overstressed and sometimes underfunded. Our local hospitals don't have enough resources. We've seen massive closures in rural hospitals over the past few years in this country. What makes rural hospitals not financially viable? It's when you bring in millions of illegal aliens into your country and you give them free health care paid for by American taxpayers. I want American citizens to benefit from our great health care system, and I want American taxpayers to support their fellow countrymen, not people who don't deserve to be here in the first place. Ma'am.
Good afternoon, Senator Vance.
Thank you. I can hear you. Yep.
How do you respond to Democrats who say that they have tried unsuccessfully on Capitol Hill to pass a border security bill, and that in fact it's been Trump and Republicans who held it up?
Yeah, ma'am, I appreciate that question. And for those of you who couldn't heard it, how do we respond to Democrats who say that they tried to pass a border security bill? My response, ma'am, is I was there in the Senate when they...
Bro, that was the most BS border security bill I've ever seen. $100 billion, right? Allocated. This is how they was going to allocate it. $60 billion to Ukraine. And I think about what, like, there was something they're going to give to Taiwan.
Yeah, there was a little
and
bit.
And then some to Israel.
Taiwan and Israel, yeah.
And then they're probably going to leave, like, maybe, I don't know, like $5 billion for the border or so. So was that really
the
a border bill?
The remaining portion.
They might as well call it a Ukrainian bill. Like, why they try to lie? And then they're going to say, oh, the Republicans put it down. They don't really want to fix the border. No, we didn't want to send $6 billion to Ukraine. And then guess what? We ended up doing it anyway.
Still sending money to Ukraine and Israel.
Man.
They tried to pass that border security bill, and it had nothing to do with border security. It had to do with codifying a lot of the executive orders of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden that actually further opened the southern border. For example, the policy of catch and release. This is where a person comes into our country, they claim asylum, and then they're released into our country with no follow-up. Sometimes they don't come back for 5 years, sometimes they don't come back for 10 years. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden implemented catch and release through executive order. Their so-called border security package would have made catch and release the law of the land. So even if you have a guy like Donald Trump come in, he can't undo it because Congress has codified one of the worst open border policies in America. Everybody knows, everybody with an ounce of common sense knows, when Kamala Harris became president, she said she wanted to, vice president, she said, I want to suspend deportations, and she did. I want to stop Donald Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, and she did. The reason why we have an open border is because Kamala Harris undid the policies of Donald J. Trump. We bring Donald J. Trump back, we bring those policies back, we will get border security, but you've got to have a president who wants to do this stuff. Thank you all.
Wow.
Georgia? Yes, sir. Please ask a question.
And like we said, if you want to go ahead and engage with me and Key, make sure to hit us with a super chat in the chat, man. $1 and up. We appreciate the support. And if you don't got that, make sure to like and subscribe, man. We appreciate it.
I don't think the microphone's on. It's okay. Just talk loud. That's a Chinese-made microphone, actually. This is an American-made microphone.
Oh, weird. Yeah, man, okay, he funny. Is that Bill Tough?
Well, first of all, why South Georgia? Because we love South Georgia, and we got to do well in South Georgia. So we want the people here to feel a little bit of love and make sure that we're thinking about them, because we're not going to win without them, right? But I do think what is unique about South Georgia and the effect of the policies of Kamala Harris is the wide open southern border, because you have that intersection of I-10 and I-75 here, very close by. It creates a lot of space for the drug traffickers and for the sex traffickers and the human traffickers. I mean, you have crime happening in this beautiful small town that would have never happened if Kamala Harris had actually done her job. And so I think that it's important to remind people that the wide open southern border has had a very direct consequences, even as far away from Texas as South Georgia. And I think it's important to remind people of that and to make the point that if we get the leadership of Donald J. Trump back, we're going to have a secure southern border. We're not going to have drugs in our kids' playgrounds that look like children's candy. We're going to have real law and order, but we've got to get better.
I know what he's talking about. He's talking about the weed gummies. Bro, how sick is that, bro? Niggas giving out weed gummies to little kids as in Halloween, like, bro.
I think that's like,
bro, you can
politicized. I don't think there's too many cases of that though.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, you gonna get your ass beat around here.
Yeah, like who's really? I'm not gonna say that hasn't happened, but who's really doing that?
Oh, that's some wild
You
shit.
calling for parents to really show up at your doorstep.
Let's be real. We all know how these weed candies looking, but they got trolleys.
Right.
You can give a kid a trolley. He don't notice that. Like, what does a kid notice that little marijuana leaf on the back? What do they know about that?
Not really too much. They might not even notice it. The packaging and the branding looks exactly like the real shit.
And next you know, he's having some type of traumatic experience.
Right, this nigga over here seeing colors or hearing colors and seeing
I was low key
shapes.
kind of confused when he was talking about. I was like, "What do you mean you're getting candies that look like drugs?" Like, bro, what? But I'm like, oh, the marijuana gummies and how they being like trolleys, they being Swedish fish,
Cheetos, all that good shit.
Yeah, that's a problem. Okay,
leadership in order to get it.
That's
Yes,
a
sir.
problem.
Yes, sir. In the hat, all the way in the back.
What are your policies going to be toward veterans and the care for veterans?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you asking that. And you know, one of the most important, how many veterans do we have here? Let's thank the veterans for their service. Thank you all for being here. I know we got a lot of veterans. God bless you all. You know, one of the great policy achievements of the Trump administration that people don't talk enough about, but our veterans know exactly what I'm talking about, is that he promoted choice in the VA healthcare system. One of the main ways, when I got out of the Marine Corps, the main way that I had health care, because I couldn't afford it otherwise, was through the VA healthcare system. You've got great people working at the VA, but sometimes, especially in our rural areas, you've got a lot of veterans who are sitting on the phone for 3 hours trying to get an appointment, who can't get an appointment. Donald Trump changed that more than any president of my lifetime. He gave veterans choice in the healthcare system, and that was a huge achievement and something the media doesn't talk enough about. The other thing Donald Trump did is again,
I know I'm being childish. I'm putting the super chat thing off all paragraphs because you might as well go ahead and send it in and get it read out loud if you got that time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
so we appreciate
if you guys
support,
have any comments or any strong feelings or remarks you want to share or get our attention specifically on, go ahead and super chat in $1 or more. We'll read it aloud, give you a Don DeMarco, recognize the comment for the 300, 400 almost people in here, and yeah,
about 259 of y'all in here. So man, let's see what, bro, tell us what y'all think, man. Come on.
You've got 95% of the people in the VA who are great patriots who are doing a great job, and I think my veterans here would back me up on that. But like every bunch, you've got a few bad apples. And you've got to be able to fire the bad apples to allow the good apples to do their job.
Shout out to those who have super chatted in. We
and
appreciate
what Donald
the support.
Trump did is engage in some real bureaucracy reform that made it possible for us to fire the small number of bad VA employees so that the good VA employees could be empowered to take care of our veterans. That's exactly how it should work. And Donald Trump deserves a lot of credit for that. We're going to go back to that because I will say I did a veterans event in Pennsylvania just a couple of days ago, and the biggest complaint I heard from those veterans was that under Kamala Harris's policies, a lot of that pro-veteran, pro-choice reform had disappeared over the last couple of years. Let's bring it back, give veterans more choice, shorten those wait times, and actually keep our promise to our veterans as we must. Maddie, you got a question?
Like I don't know what that means. No, he was using Amalak.
Do you think that it's time for Governor Walz and Kamala Harris to actually do a press conference and do an interview with the media?
Yeah, please don't use that type of language in the chat. We're using the word Amalak, which is the Jewish reference for those who need to be exterminated. Yes, I read. So please refrain from those type of sayings in the chat.
It's time, don't you all? Look, it is such a cool thing to be able to run as Donald Trump's running mate and to be able to ask these wonderful people to be their vice president of the United States. It's an amazing honor. Aside from being a dad to those 3 babies and a husband to my wife, the greatest honor of my entire life is standing up here and being able to run to be the next vice president of the United States. But it is an awesome thing. It's not just a cool thing. It's not just a wonderful thing, though it is. I am asking you all for something that is quite profound. It's to be the vice president of the most powerful nation in the world at one of the most important times in our history. If you want to get that kind of job, and you're asking the American people to give you that kind of job, I think you ought to interview for that job, right? There are a lot of jobs that are less important than vice president of the United States, where we expect people to interview before they get a promotion. Kamala Harris is asking the American people for a promotion, but she refuses to actually talk to them before it. Think about it. Every single event that Kamala Harris does, she's got a teleprompter in front of her. And I think the reason is because Kamala Harris cannot explain why she wanted to defund the police. Kamala Harris can't explain why she suspended deportations on day one. Kamala Harris can't explain why she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Explosion Act that made the price of groceries and housing so expensive for normal American citizens all over this country.
Yes,
and because she can't answer those questions, she is running for the American people. But my ask, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, whether you agree with Donald Trump on all the issues or most of the issues, or you disagree with him on most of the issues, is at least Donald Trump is who he is, and he respects the American people enough to go out and earn their vote instead of being expected to give in their vote.
Because you're a certain ethnicity or something. That's wild.
We'll just do a couple more. Any other Georgia folks who haven't asked a question before we go on? We'll do a couple national. Sir.
Senator, the former lieutenant governor spoke at the DNC, had some choice words about the former president.
I saw that too.
We also know that Brian Kemp has also had some tough things to say about the former president. What's your reaction to these top Republicans from the state having reservations about the president and telling other Republicans to dump Trump?
Well, look, first of all, of course, Tim Walz is going to attack Donald Trump because Tim Walz doesn't have a record to stand on. What I found very interesting, did anybody watch Tim Walz's speech? Okay, good. I was going to lose a lot of respect for you if you had said yes. If you watched Tim Walz's speech, it's part of my job, so I had to. You know what he never did? He never once said, I know we've got some train noise in the background here, so I'll try to be loud, but he never, it's the Trump train. That's right, ma'am. God bless you.
That's hilarious.
What Tim Walz never once said is Kamala Harris accomplished this thing that lowered the cost
They
of housing.
can't say that.
Kamala Harris.
If you watch our video of the interview between Kamala and Walz, the kind of introductory interview when she first brought him on, like she was kind of looking at him and admiring his accomplishments more than anything. Like, yeah, we need you, coach. Like, that's what we brought you along for. Like, it's kind of like Walz is really the spokesman for the Kamala campaign at a certain point. Because again, like she can't really speak extemporaneously. Like, we haven't seen her in a forum where she's just speaking and answering questions off the hip, maybe being pressed on certain topics or getting a little bit of pushback on other topics. Like, we haven't seen that. She's been at rallies with screaming fans. They're gonna scream and support regardless. They're here because of the name. But we haven't seen her answer any direct questions. And she's gotten this far into the race. Like he said, polling day is 75 days away, and we still ain't really heard from Kamala, like, on a one-on-one, like, yo, how you feel about this? Well, okay, well, how you feel about that?
Accomplished this thing that lowered the cost of groceries. Kamala Harris accomplished this thing that had made America more peaceful and more secure. And he couldn't say that because Kamala Harris has caused the very policies that have made Americans' lives worse over the last few years. Kamala Harris caused the open border and caused the inflation crisis.
And this is the thing. They're holding Kamala and they're holding Trump to do two different standards. That's what I find most egregious. Because Trump has done exactly what I just explained and stepped into those hostile environments. The black journalists of Chicago, he stepped on CNN hosted debates. Like, he stepped in those environments where they're not necessarily Trump supporters or Trump's base. And he's answered questions or went back and forth with reporters and journalists. We haven't seen that from Kamala. We haven't.
She's scared.
She got a job? No, she doesn't. She's on leave for campaign.
Bro, oh, wow. And bro, in the terms of the black community,
what are you talking about? You can't. She's on leave for campaign.
In the terms of the black community, she is scared to come outside. That is crazy, and nobody judging her for it. Actually, like I said, it's always so crazy how they get mad when they say, "Oh, Trump shouldn't go after her because she's a woman. Trump shouldn't go after no personal attack because she's a woman." I'm like, they're competing for the same seat, so why can't it be an even ground? Like, what was the point of this whole feminism thing if y'all want to get it taken easy? Well, I'll be real.
Go ahead, cook it up,
bro. If you honestly believe that Trump should take it easy on Kamala, that Trump isn't allowed to insult Kamala personally and policy-wise, then be real with you, you don't believe in feminism for real. Honestly, if you truly believe in equality and in feminism, Trump should be able to cook her in every way, shape, and form, and we should be able to look at Kamala and be like, all right, so what you got to say? He cooking you, cook him back.
Oh, Trump, big, mean, orange bully.
Like, come on now.
It is telling that a person who has been vice president for 3.5 years, her argument and the argument of her surrogates is, we're going to do things better when I get power.
Where she's around her supporting base. Let her step in a hostile environment. Like, I don't know, a Fox hosted debate. Or, I don't know, a Republican journalist forum where she's answering questions from the opposing side, right? Good-natured, well-spirited debate, but
of course,
let her answer some questions from people who don't necessarily already support her, as Trump has done. Like I said, it's like they're being held to two different standards.
Yeah. And the fact that she hasn't went to
we covered it weeks. My bad.
Yeah, the fact she hasn't went to an opposition interview is crazy.
But look, but we covered it weeks ago. Like, Kevin O'Leary came here and said it on Piers Morgan. Like, she's gonna ride out this wave of positivity and fundraising until it's really time to answer some tough questions. Like, I'm gonna make the bold prediction. I've already said it, but I'll say it again. She's not gonna talk. She's not really gonna have that. They'll answer any tough questions until next month, until that debate stage.
Because, bro, just like Biden, we lowered the bar for her.
She's not going to say anything until that debate stage next month, bro. She's not. We're not going to hear nothing from her. She's going to keep doing her.
Bro.
She's had power for 3.5 years, and she's made everything worse. That is the most simple and obvious
politics all the way out
of Tim Walz's speech, is he can't run on a record because the record is bad. Now, look, I actually talked to Brian Kemp very briefly earlier today.
Any thoughts, comments,
I read the headlines.
Jokes,
Brian Kemp
ideas,
and Donald Trump have had some disagreements. I am 100%
Go ahead and engage with the chat,
Brian
man.
Kemp is
Got over
behind
300
this
of y'all
ticket.
in
He
here
wants
right
us
now.
to win
It's been a
because he
fire
believes the
conversation. Let's keep it
policies
going.
of Kamala Harris are
Make sure to like the video,
disastrous
double tap
for this
that
country,
screen.
and he's exactly right about that. So I'm glad to have the governor's support. I'm glad to have any Democrat, any independent, any moderate Republican or conservative Republican. We want anybody who believes in common sense to join the Trump train because that's what's going to save this country. And we'll do one more question from the national folks. Anybody else want to ask a question? Ma'am, please.
Thank you, Senator. I wanted to ask you, because another aspect of the DNC speeches yesterday was the kind of human aspect of immigration. They had one of the DACA recipients speak. As a husband of someone who is a daughter of immigrants, how do you look at the deportation plan that Trump has will put in place?
Yeah.
Specifically, the detention of families and children.
Well, so let me say three things about this. First, I am married to the daughter of immigrants to this country. I'm married to the daughter of legal immigrants to this country, people who respected the country enough to follow the rules before they came. And I think that's very important. Yeah. And look, I love my wife more than anything in this world. I am so grateful that her family came here, but I'm also grateful that they came here in the right way and built a life in this country the right way. That really matters. You can't reward people for breaking the laws. If their first act of introduction to this country is to break the law, you can't reward them for that, or you're just going to encourage more law breaking. So this is my second point. You hear Democrats say this a lot, and a couple speakers of the Democratic Convention say that Donald Trump wants to separate families. And I don't know how they can say that with a straight face, given that I just heard from a sheriff earlier today that they caught two kids who were being basically kidnapped by the Mexican drug cartels to help those drug cartels facilitate the sale of illegal drugs into our communities. What happened to those kids? Where are those kids' parents? I guarantee our government doesn't know, because our government, under the policies of Kamala Harris, has lost thousands of innocent children to sex trafficking, to drug trafficking, to human trafficking. The party that believes in separating parents from their children is Kamala Harris, because that's what the open border has done. It separated American citizens from their children. It separated a lot of illegal aliens from their children. It's not good either way. Because the one group of people, I think we can all agree, I don't blame these poor children who are being sex trafficked and drug trafficked by the Mexican drug cartels, but I don't want to pursue policies that's going to make it easier for the drug cartels to take advantage of those children. We ought to pursue policies that's going to make it harder on the drug cartels. Go to war against those drug cartels. Don't facilitate their sex trafficking and their drug trafficking.
Not for real.
And the final point that I'd say...
Because, man, I would like to state out the fact that, one, the Chinese triad is the one who fund the Mexican cartels to push all these drugs into America.
Shit, they've even made it. They've even infiltrated into America and started whole weed farms over here, bro.
And
to launder money back to the Chinese state.
Bro, have whole loan banks started just to give to these people to start
fraudulent
these weed
of course.
Farms. Yes.
Fraudulent loan firms.
No.
A whole scheme, a whole operation.
Man, and we've covered that, man. Go ahead and search China in our catalog, and you will find the videos.
Man, make sure to search our whole catalog. Y'all bound to find something in there, whether it be political, dating. We have a podcast as well. Just wrapped up a fire episode with 2 female guests the other day. So go ahead and search our catalog, man. S.E.T Key Media. Hit the subscribe and keep the notification tab on as well, man. We're live every day, whether it be me, whether it be S.E.T, whether it be both of us in here cooking it up for y'all, man. We appreciate y'all. Go ahead and join in on the journey, man.
About this is, look, our message to illegal aliens who've come into this country by breaking our laws is yes. If you came into this country illegally, Donald Trump and I are going to work to send you home, because that's what is required
we work
if you want to have a real border policy.
All right, buddy, we don't need you here.
Back to where you came.
And our message to everybody who wants to come to this country is come through the right channels, because as soon as Kamala Harris is booted out of office, and it's going to happen in just a few short months, as soon as Kamala Harris is booted out of office, we are not open for business to illegal aliens or to the Mexican drug cartels anymore. That is our solemn promise to the American people, and we are very serious about it.
Chat.
So let me... Since that's the last question for the press, and I know we have to get on the road here, let me just say a word of gratitude to all of you and to our law enforcement. We really believe in what you do. We believe that your work is sacred and important. We are grateful to you for doing it. We're grateful to you for putting your lives on the line to make us safe. And in just a few short months, President Donald J. Trump is going to make your life easier, not harder. God bless you guys. Let's work to get it done. Thank you all, and good to see you.
RK endorse Trump.
He sure did. Let's go ahead and share some of y'all thoughts, man. We appreciate the support in the chat. Dollar and up. Well, copyright. Yeah, that's the end of the video. Shout out. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you.
Look, remember, these are the same group of people that told us for 3.5 years that Joe Biden, who couldn't complete a sentence, was Albert Einstein. Now they want us to believe that Kamala Harris is Abraham Lincoln. You see the completely dishonest coverage. But even despite that, Kamala Harris is running from them. And I think a little bit like a campaign really is an extended job interview with the American people, right? So this is a person who is asking you, the American people, for a promotion to President of the United States, but she refuses to sit down for an interview, even with the extremely friendly media. Now, is that a person that we should reward with a promotion? No, I don't think that it is. And I think that if you're terrified to sit in front of completely sympathetic, biased media, then how can the American people ever trust you to sit in a room with Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping or the leaders of the world that the president has to deal with? Now let's just take stock. Let's take stock of the Trump.
Man, but bro, so what do you think about all this, bro? Cause this whole Trump Vance thing going on now. Because let's be real, we all thought he was gonna pick Vivek or Tulsi Gabbard or there's other picks. He kind of surprised everybody with JD.
He did, especially when you kind of look at the Trump Vance history, and Vance had some harsh comments for him a few years ago, but I guess he was able to turn him from hater to supporter and VP.
You're right. He did go from Trump is, well, Hitler to now, hey, man, he's not that bad. He's not that bad of a guy.
Matter of fact, I think I like what he's talking about. Let me get up under that.
But I think a lot of people has made that adjustment, and the Democrats just don't understand that. A lot of us has been on the Democratic side first. In college, I started out Democratic. By the time I left college, I was Republican. I was like, all right, I seen the debauchery. I'm good. You guys can have it.
Yeah.
I'm Republican now. I'm not all the way right leaning because I definitely got some liberal views. I ain't gonna lie.
Left leaning views as well.
Yeah, but most of my views are, I would say, right leaning. Far right, hell no. But I would consider myself slightly conservative. If we put it in the middle, I probably like.
There's there's a political test. I think we should both take. Maybe even maybe even on stream one day.
I'm weak because then they take that political test, find out you far right
type shit.
Like, man,
it'd be funny sometimes. It'd be surprising sometimes. You be thinking like, damn, I thought I was a liberal. Whole time I'm a moderate, or whole time I'm kind of Republican or kind of right.
All right, well, shoot, let's talk about all the major problems, and let's go with abortion at first. Because with the whole abortion thing, like I said, like, I think the 6 weeks. You got 6 weeks to find out what you're going to do. Past that, it's y'all responsibility.
Yeah.
Now, yo, chat, if y'all want to engage in the conversation, like I said, we're going to head and monologue it out with y'all. Please come on. Come ahead and engage in the conversation with us. $1 and up. Man.
We've turned off the video. It's just straight conversation, straight talk. So if y'all want to engage and go ahead and add something to the conversation, go ahead and super chat in $1 or more. We appreciate the support either way, though. Make sure to like the video.
Because, like I said, in my eyes, I do not think that we should just allow women to be irresponsible with abortion. The women who are fighting for abortion are women who use abortion irresponsibly. Like, let's be real. I think that's what it is. I think it's for the women who kind of thought they can drag it out with a dude. He said no. Boom. Let's go get the abortion. I really think that if...
Or it's just women who aren't using any discernment when they choose sexual partners. They're having these...
chat, hear me out, chat. If there was no abortion, now I'm not saying that there shouldn't be an abortion. Now, hear me out. If there was no abortion, wouldn't women be forced to make better choices in their male selection? Be real. Come on now. You cannot say I'm lying.
Oh, but that's inhumane. Women need to have the option to delete these fetuses. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's where you kind of lose me. It's just like you kind of want to put the power to legally terminate a life in a woman's hands and just kind of disguise it as women's rights.
Yeah.
Like, it just kills me because I'm just like, yeah, I'm all for women's rights. Like, obviously, It's your body, your choice, whether you're a woman, man, or Anunnaki alien. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it's just like, okay, when it comes to just killing a life form, like it's just like, hey, you kind of lost me there. When you couldn't make more responsible choices, there's over 50 other types of contraceptives available.
Yeah, but like I said,
and abortion shouldn't be considered as one.
On God, like, bro, unless it came from grape, unless it came from crazy ass incest, unless your wife is about to die, your girlfriend's gonna die from this birth, abortion should not be considered any type of
and this is my view
option.
too. I'm gonna throw this out there because this is a view personal to me. Like, okay, like if we know the kid might suffer some complications, it might, have some deficiencies upon its birth. Okay, all right,
yeah,
okay, I can get behind that.
Yeah,
still within that 6 to 8 week time frame. But I can get behind that.
But what I don't believe though is that we should just allow women to just keep going to these clinics just because they want to be party girls. Like, there gotta be a line somewhere. There gotta be a line, and each state can go ahead and do what they want. Cause like I said, I'm just like Trump with the go ahead, leave it to each state. The problem is these Democrats want for Democrats that live in these Republican states. Yes, because for the Democrats who live in a Republican state.
Mm-hmm.
So they want that option. We're like, well, what if we don't want that option? Just go live in a Democratic state. But here's a problem. Even the Democrats know that living in a Democratic state is crap and a Republican state is better.
Bro, there's people that leave states for the state policy all the time. Think about the mass exodus that's going on in California right now because of their state policy. They're not tough on crime. They're not tough on immigration, right? They're not helping the homeless population. Everything's fucked up. That's why everybody's leaving. So there's people that have to move states depending on the circumstance anyway. That already goes on. So if you feel so strongly about abortion and you feel like you might need one day, which is crazy,
yeah,
then I guess move to an abortion-friendly state.
Yeah, and live yourself out there. You can go ahead and live with the rest of the liberals.
But you can't say that Trump isn't for abortion or he's trying to federally ban it just because he's trying to return the decision to the states. Because how you feel on it vastly varies depending on if you're from Cali, you're from Florida, the Midwest like we are, shout out Ohio, or New York, or the Northwest. You in Connecticut, you don't feel differently about it geographically depending on where you are.
Man. All right, so immigration. Now, my thoughts on immigration is that, well, it does need to stop. Like right now, we just need to turn the faucet off. Like right now, the faucet is running crazy and nobody's looking at it. We just need to go ahead and shut it off, cut it off today, and we'll be in a better place. And then we got to round up all those that we know are undocumented, that we can just pull them out the street for real. Mm-hmm. All of these catch a predator channels are finding them. We can find them too if these guys can find them, okay? It's not as hard as y'all think. But as far as that immigration stuff goes, yeah. Honestly, I think we should shut off immigration altogether because it really don't help nobody.
And then to that point, my stance kind of, is an agreement and an alignment with that. But I will go further and say, what's the counter argument to not wanting to just cut the switch and shut off the faucet right now? We have a serious issue. I feel like it's affecting a vast majority of people in different ways, like whether it be from them stealing your resources in your city, or whether it be from the people of some of the families of these victims that have actually suffered from crimes. Like, what's the argument to be like, nah, you know what? Just keep letting them in at these mass numbers, undocumented and all, illegal and all. Keep letting them in. What's the argument for that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, low key.
Like, somebody give me one. I literally want to debate that because I just don't see the benefit for it. For the tax-paying American,
man, and
Democrat or Republican.
And here's the truth about immigration: we can never solve it. Is there's too many people in the world that are broke and struggling that make under $2 a day. I'm sorry, $2 a month. There's people who only make $2 a month, bro. I literally went to the DR, right? And I was doing this little boat ride. The dude who was doing the boat ride looked at my phone. He said, "Yo, how much was that?" I was like, "About $700." He said, "Dog, I'd have to work the entire year, no food, no bills to afford that phone for $700. That's how they living out there.
And that's some shit most Americans do in one little trip to T-Mobile.
Exactly. So, and there's so many. There's over 1 billion people who living like this. and we're taking just 1
Oh,
million.
most people in the world are living an impoverished life.
And we're just taking
most people
1 million a year. Bro, we're taking 2 million, 3 million, 4 million. Damn, we didn't top 10 million, and the problem is still terrible.
We can never offset the rising birth rates in some of these foreign nations.
And here's the worst
these third world countries. They're going to keep producing up to 50 to 60, almost 70 million per year.
Bro, why we produce like what 1.5 to 2 kids, bro? They're having like 6 to 8.
Come on now.
That's the problem.
And we think we offsetting it with 1 or 2 million. We taking in.
No.
Gotta help these people where they're at.
All right, but let's talk about the whole, I guess, the Kamala Harris situation. Let's just break it down all the way from the get-go, right? From the get-go, we all knew that they was going to replace Biden after the speech. We just knew. Something in my head knew that they were going to replace Biden. I also called it earlier that they're going to try to do something to Trump. I remember I called it right during that debate, and I was like, yeah, they got to do something to this man Trump. They're going to do it because it was all bets placed on that debate, and if they knew if it went left, is either they hit Trump, and that's that, automatic dub, or if they miss Trump, all right, great, now we got to go with Kamala. We got to risk it all on Kamala because they could only skirt democracy so much.
Well, let's be honest. How many of us was anticipating Joe to get up on that stage and perform exactly as he did? The following weeks or the weeks following up to the debate, he wasn't looking too good. His declining cognitive state was ever apparent. So, I mean, anybody with a brain could have made out that he was going to get on that debate stage and make a fool of himself. They strong armed him out of the position, even though he kind of sunk his toes in and said, I still want to run. I can still serve. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like you said, I guess the powers that be just ushered him to the side and inserted Kamala right into his place. And she hasn't said much of anything.
And then told us that she was black. When
she's black, she's Asian,
Hindu.
She's Hindu. She's Jamaican. Depending on who you ask, man.
Really,
it depends on what room she's in.
No, here's the crazy. She's the ancestor of a Jamaican slave owner.
They don't want to talk. That's the only part of her heritage they don't want to talk about.
That's why they kind of skirted away from the whole black part because it was like, ooh.
Whoa, if they go down that rabbit hole, they might find out
this one, and then okay, let's try to go down the Indian one because she was on a cooking show, repping her Indian heritage more than her supposed black one, her supposed black heritage. Let's be real. She ran under the mantra of being the first Hindu DA. You can look that up. So you gotta understand, Kamala, she's done too much flip flopping, and that's why. I mean, really, with you. That's why they call her Comrade Kamala, because she just flip flops on these policies, and we don't even know. Like, hold on, are you for Trump or against Trump? Because you said no fracking, now we're fracking. Now you want tips on no tax on tips. It's like, hold on here. Are you plagiarizing policies?
She's exactly doing that. But I see people talking about, why are you guys talking about Biden? He's not their man anymore. Leave that argument alone. And it's just like, it questions the whole Democratic Party, though, because they really prompted him up. Like, we couldn't see that. Okay, clearly this old man he's senile.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a wrap.
But they kept supporting him. They kept giving him the nod. Like, we couldn't make that out. So it calls into question the whole party. It kind of points to their corruption almost, really.
No, that's true.
So that's why we still continue to talk about it, because it's like, hold on, what's going on over on that side? They almost tell us anything. Like I said, they'll piss on our face and tell us it's raining.
Okay. Quite the analogy. Okay. All right, then. So let's get into this the Ukraine war. Everybody, think that's Putin's fault. Putin's an aggressor. He's just such an evil dictator. Oh, fear Putin. And no, that's not how it is, okay? Let's just go ahead and go down the rabbit hole for y'all. First off, we told Putin no into NATO. Putin tried to join NATO. He tried to be kumbaya with us. We told him no. Then, okay, cool. Since he could have come into NATO, then we try to work something out with him on the whole, NATO borders. Because at this point, he's like, all right, cool. As long as NATO don't go past Poland, we're good. What did we do? We try to push for Ukraine to go into NATO. We violated what we said to Putin. Now, let's be real. If Putin cannot see us as a people of our word, and he go do something malicious just because we told him that one thing, we did another, is he wrong for doing that? Like, I'm just being real. Is he wrong? Because I don't think so. Now, if you want to super
and they're gonna say
please go ahead and give us that argument.
Oh well, NATO tried to extend the offer, but he didn't want to submit to the terms. Like, no, it's because they tried to literally tell that man, like, look, you got to do this, and that. They were making special terms for Putin that they weren't making for any other NATO affiliated. Hold on, so they were making special terms, special specifications for Putin to join NATO that they weren't making for any other European country. So they were holding him to a different standard, saying you had to do all these certain things. That's why it was unfair terms. Why would I sign that deal if I'm Putin?
Bro, a lot of these people don't even know when when this whole Ukraine conflict started. It started in 2014 when we overthrew their government and put in Zelensky in. The person before Zelensky, I do not know his name because, Russian as hell. But the person before Zelensky was cool with Putin. He wanted to negotiate. He wanted to be aligned with Putin. That was a problem for the U.S. That's why we started the whole coup in 2014 over there to put in Zelensky because he was pro-NATO. We put in a whole actor, a literal actor, to run Ukraine. Ain't that funny? So yes, I want to. What's y'all thoughts, Chaz? Go ahead and send $1+ in and let us know y'all thoughts on any of the subjects we talked about.
And we see a lot of y'all comments, man. It's hard to keep up with them at a certain point. So if you want to engage with us directly, man, we appreciate the support either way, whatever side of the fence you on. But just go ahead and super chat in that $1. Let's have a conversation. We appreciate the support either way. Double tap the screen to like the video.
All right, and you got any comments on the? Oh, never mind. You ready to went in?
Yeah.
So let's go for the Israel and Hamas.
Well, before we do that, let's go Trump.
Oh,
let's go our disagreements with Trump's policy.
Disagreements with Trump policies. All right, then I think we'd have to take it to Agenda 47.
Yeah, I think we could start there.
All right, then. So let's go to Agenda 47 here. And it's going to go right off DonaldTrump.com. So we got to go ahead and read some of these out. And let's see here. Of course, number 1, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Oh, no, that's probably not the best Trump thing, but I agree.
I can fully co-sign that one. I think my biggest qualm with Trump's policy is his stance for Israel.
Okay, that's what you're going for.
Yeah, I just talks of a ceasefire and peace agreements. For me personally, both candidates support Israel, and Israel is hell bent right now. So that's probably my biggest qualm or my biggest disagreement with Trump is his stance with Israel.
All right, so you don't think that Trump should be endorsing Israel just so heavily, like, oh yeah, we're gonna stand by them, but we're not gonna get into a war over them?
I think that him or Vance or both of them should either come out with a stance of, look, we support Israel, but we need the war to end on this day. I think they need to put an end on it, a cap on it. Like, we'll give you one more loan, but the war has to be done on this day or around this time period, because it's Netanyahu and the IDF seem
to be dragging it out.
Yeah, they seem to be on their own mission and agenda, and it's only being sanctioned by us and the rest of the world. So it's not going to stop until we say stop.
Yep, go ahead and say, all right, no more funding. All right, chill out now, chill out. So, yeah, and honestly, yeah, I just don't like the American alliance with it. Like, we kind of letting them run amok on them. And then nobody really knows the true history of, well, the Palestinians and Israel. They don't. Everybody thinks it starts at October 7th, but it really started all the way back in 1948 when the EU, I believe, gave the Jews Palestine, and they went in there and kicked those people out, and they've been bitter ever since. So if you think that this all starts at October 7th, then you're being ignorant to the rest of history that led up to this. The conflict has been a boiling pot that's finally boiled over. Like, yeah, it took a while. It boiled over a couple of times, and y'all ain't hear about it. Well, go look it up. Plenty of conflicts. They've been fighting for years, and the Israelis been having their foot on their necks, well, for years. So, for those of y'all who think this started on October 7th, nah. This started in 1948. And y'all need to look that up because I can't really.
It's an ongoing conflict, and you have to be choosy on what you say on YouTube about it. So
yeah, you really
make sure to check out our Rumble account for more coverage on Israel and Palestine and some hidden history for our history buffs and fans out there.
Man.
But beyond that, you were saying after Trump, you said
it was October. Yeah, it was the whole Israel and Hamas thing.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm for peace negotiations. I'm for peace talks. But it's funny enough, depending on who you ask now, they're saying that the hostages needed for negotiation or peace negotiation talks are no longer with us. Yeah. So the hostages that
Hamas ones or Israel or both sides?
I think both sides. Like some of these people are just not here anymore. So that's why this conflict is being prolonged, is because, I mean, the hostages that are wanted for the negotiation are just they're not here.
Here's a problem.
And Trump kind of alluded to that yesterday in his speech.
No, this is kind of what's disturbing though. So we've seen footage of Hamas releasing Israeli, captives, right? But we haven't seen no video of the IDF releasing Palestinian captives. That's the problem. And I think that's what I'm going to be real with you. That's what a lot of people are saying that, the IDF is doing some crazy things to these Palestinians in these prisons.
Yeah.
And it's kind of showing because the IDF don't even want to do the prison exchange because they kind of know. Like, bro, these Jewish women who came back from Hamas are pretty much saying, nah, well, I was scared, of course, but they didn't touch me. They didn't do anything to me. They fed me and all that. But then Israeli media going to turn around and be like, oh, nah, she was G-raped. I mean, she was gang raped. Yeah.
Gang raped is crazy.
And it's crazy. You can look up it on Israeli media and they low-key debunk themselves. That's the best thing. The Israeli media debunks themselves.
Well, because they put out so many outlandish alerting reports. Like as time goes on, the truth kind of reveals itself, and like you said, they end up exposing and debunking themselves. Like the reports of the decapitated babies ended up kind of being fabricated. So it's kind of what Israeli media has been known to do.
Yeah, and a little bit of hidden history. I ain't gonna lie, the Rothschilds bought Palestine all the way back in the 1800s, I believe, like close to the 1890s. So it was already in planned. My dog. But enacted in 1948. So, and there's a little bit of knowledge to throw your way you can look into. Man. You got any topics you want to go down through real quick, man?
It seems like we got a lot of Kamala supporters in the chat tonight. We appreciate y'all viewing, tuning in, whether you're on the left side or the right side, man. We appreciate all the comments and the viewership as well. Make sure to like the video, double tap that screen.
Like I said, man, as we close it out, man, make sure to send a super chat in if you want your thoughts, man. You got something on your mind? Come on, man. It's $1 plus. Go ahead. We'll go ahead and we'll give y'all that attention.
Get it off your chest.
Like, come on now. If you guys think we ain't do enough research and we kind of need y'all to input on the conversation, hey, not really, but we would love it, though. I ain't even going to lie. We would love it.
Right. Defend your ideals. Step up.
Come on now.
Put your question or retort in the form of a super chat, $1 and up.
Yep. Come on. Challenge us on it. Like, come on. Put your money where your mouth is, as they say. Because some of y'all is crazy, man. Some of y'all crazy out here for Kamala. And I just want to know why. Just tell me why. Just tell me why she can just come up, be a woman of color, and everybody just bend the knee to her. Bro. Man. White women for Kamala, black men for Kamala, hoes for Harris, all this crazy stuff. Man. White men for Kamala. Man. Like, bro, y'all killing me with it at this point.
It's just the pandering that I don't like. It's just the idea that I should vote for Kamala because she is all of that. Like, no, I'm going to vote whoever's policy best aligns with my views, the direction I see America going in for my community, not because somebody is supposedly this race or has this heritage. Like, what they say, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. If Kamala black, that don't mean she has my best interest at heart.
That's facts.
Like, shit.
Man, that is facts.
And if that makes me Uncle Tom or Uncle Ruckus, whatever. I don't give a damn. Like, shit.
Toss in the black card. So
Hey, fuck it. I'll get that bitch back when it's worth something.
Oh, man. Okay. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear it. Man. So, all right, then. I guess we can
close out there, man. We appreciate everybody tuning in, man. As we close out, if anybody wants to get anything off their chest, $1 or more to be read aloud.
We're giving y'all about a good 2 minutes. We'll give y'all about a good 2 minutes before we close it out. And to go ahead and send in a super chat. Any closing thoughts you got in your mind, you got 2 minutes to go ahead and send it in. In the meantime,
we appreciate the viewership, man. It's been a fire week as we wrap up, man. Just want to say appreciate everybody who's maybe been here with us for this week, last month, this past year, or maybe it's your first time seeing S.E.T Media. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, man. We are on a journey, and we would appreciate y'all. Oh, shout out Sean M, man. We appreciate you, Sean.
Man, he came back.
We remember you, Sean, dog. We remember you, bro.
Kamala is for democracy? Man, we're in a republic. Don't tell her. We're in a republic. Don't. Oh, yeah, that is true. People do forget about that. A constitutional republic is what really America is, right? They forget about that. Man, shout out Sean M, man, once again, bro. Shout out.
Appreciate that, man. Anybody else feel like they want to step up and...
To go into that point.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Is Kamala for democracy, though? When she let in all these, immigrants under her watch?
They claim she's a communist Marxist.
Man, Tim Walz has spent too much time in China. I ain't gonna lie. She picked a whole communist, a man who owns nothing and who just goes to China all the time. Like I said, you guys can't convince me of nothing at this point about where Kamala low-key leans politically. And this is the only reason I'm not voting for bro. If RFK was a Democratic nominee, y'all might have had me on. I'd be like, okay, you know what? I can kind of rock with that one. But Kamala Harris, when they gave us Bumble and Biden. She was part of the team that hit Bumble and Biden. So why is y'all acting like, we can trust her? I'm like, she hid a truth from y'all. And y'all still...
She was his running mate. She knew about his mental state for the past 4 years. She knew.
Man.
Right?
She definitely did. All right.
Yes, dementia has a fast onsetting process, but shit, she was supposed to be his right woman, so she knew firsthand.
All right, let's give it another 2 minutes, though. Well, 1 minute and a half. 1 minute and a half for y'all. We still do have to get on to our dating show. We got probably a celebrity news show. And then don't worry, we're going to hit you with more politics later on. Don't worry. S.E.T Media. But, shoot.
As we close out, man, we appreciate everybody pulling up in here, man. Had a good conversation going in the chat. Again, man, if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Scroll through our catalog. Like you said, we got dating. We got politics, of course, as you guys see. Celebrity drama and news, depending on what's going on. So feel free to scroll through, and you're bound to find something you mess with.
Man, exactly. Hey, S.E.T Media, man. We do more than just politics, even though, we do like our political talk. And we do the research for it. It is fun. I'll give it to y'all. I give it.
But we don't claim to be know-it-alls. We don't claim to be political pundits. We just two informed Americans, and we like to have conversations, and we like for y'all to be in here with us and a part of the discourse. So we appreciate everybody tuning in.
Oh, man. And we got about a good 30 seconds left. Like I said, if you got any more comments or anything you want to send in.
Appreciate you, Sean, for that last super chat.
Oh, man. We appreciate Sean, man. Great supporter here. Great supporter. Now, man, ain't that the craziest thing, though? Ain't that the craziest thing? Man, shout out J.D. Vance, though. Hey, for him being an Ohioan, I ain't gonna lie, I am being a bit biased because he's an Ohioan. So come on now, you got to root for home team.
Yeah,
we got a fellow Ohioan in the office. Like, I'm okay with that. I can rock with that.
Yeah.
Well, but we are one of these swing states apparently. But I'll be real with you, Ohio is mostly leaning Trump. I don't care what them polls tell you, dog. Because like I said, where are these polls? Because there's we're mostly leaning Trump.
I'd imagine.
Well, as long as you go outside the cities.
Yeah, I mean, once you step outside the inner city and kind of step inside of these rural areas.
Bro, and I would only say it's like a very small section of like Columbus even got like, you know,
parts and sections where they're full Trump. And that's within the city.
Well, it'd be like that. It do be like
no one's voting for Trump. That's hilarious.
But anyway,
that's like me saying no one's voting for Kamala. Like people are gonna vote for both. Like,
oh, people vote for it.
Come on, now.
Bro. People write their name on a ballot and vote for themselves. Come on now. Anyway,
I appreciate everybody tuning in. We're gonna close this one out, man. We'll be back with more content for y'all. This is Key. This is Set right here, man. Set and Key Media. We out on this one,
man. Peace.